Just moments ago, the summit of world leaders in Turkey and Kazakhstan ignited a firestorm that threatened to burn the very power of Russia. It was a clash of titans, Erdogan, the fiery president of Turkey, daring to challenge the history of the Soviet Union, to unravel the threads binding Russia, Kazakhstan, and their shared past. His words echoed sharply through the room, forcing every delegate into confrontation. But then, the unexpected happened. Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, Kazakhstan's steadfast leader, rose to his feet, calm, deliberate, unshaken. His response was so slow, so precise, that Erdogan's confidence faltered, and he was left speechless. In that instant, the room's atmosphere shifted. No one anticipated that Tokayev would enter the fray, dismantling his opponent's narrative with surgical clarity. This was more than a political retort, it was a quiet but devastating declaration of strength. Stay tuned until the very end, what unfolds next will shatter your expectations. Support the story with a like, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. Do you support the legacy of the Soviet Union? Your opinion matters. Let's dive into the story. Tokayev stepped into the room with effortless authority. The audience, instead of applause, fell into tense silence, attention, not admiration. He moved with calm purpose, as if emerging from nowhere, without ceremony or fanfare. His arrival was subtle, yet his presence commanded authority, like an old, trusted friend arriving just after the resolutions are sealed. Everyone, almost unnoticed, watched as he took his position, almost blending into the surroundings, almost like part of the very walls. His face bore no smile, yet his expression was neither mask nor emotion, just silent readiness. What's most terrifying about such a figure? The quiet patience. His dark, piercing eyes, shadowed by the heavy brows, hinted at a mind sharper than any weapon. A broad, firm nose, stern and unwavering, added to his aura of calm confidence. Charisma wasn't his tool, he was an architect of influence, an individual who builds through quiet strength rather than loud speeches. His posture was controlled, slightly leaning forward, one hand resting on the floor, the other subtly ready to give an order. Across from him, Erdogan sat in his fiery red vehicle, a symbol of power and motion. His expression, composed yet alert, seemed to anticipate a storm. His stance, controlled but tense, indicated he was preparing for the next move. Every muscle, every gesture, seemed meticulously calculated, ready to respond to any escalation with precision. Suddenly, the room filled with the hum of anticipation. The atmosphere shifted, charged like a battlefield before the first strike. Who would strike first? In this quiet confrontation, the stakes had never been higher. Erdogan's confident facade? Cracks appeared. Tokayev was no ordinary leader, his silence was a weapon. His gaze held secrets, and his calm was a storm waiting to unleash. The room, the air thick with tension, felt like the calm before the hurricane. The silence drummed louder than words, an unspoken challenge waiting to explode. Who would blink first? Would Erdogan's fiery rhetoric crack under the weight of Tokayev's unwavering gaze? Or would the Kazakh leader's quiet strength silence the room forever? It was clear, this was not just a diplomatic meeting. It was a clash of legacies, a battle for influence that could reshape history. The outcome? Nobody knew. But one thing was certain, the world was watching, waiting for the next move from the architects of this new geopolitical chessboard. Imagine a scene where the tension in the room is almost tangible. The air thick with unspoken words, the weight of history pressing down. As the meeting begins, all eyes fixate on a man sitting stoically, hands poised like a trigger, ready to act or speak. His gaze is sharp, almost metallic, as if he's dissecting every move around him. The moment when he raises his hand, the signal for action, feels like the flick of a switch in a dark room. The subtle sound of fabric rustling, the faint click of a button, signals command. He's here not just to participate, but to impose, to assert dominance in the most subtle, yet most powerful way. Now, picture this, a dark blue rubber band on his wrist, subtle yet symbolic. His face, unreadable, a volcano dormant in a dungeon. He isn't here for combat, he isn't a foe. He's an architect of power, lurking in the shadowy corridors of influence. No need for words, his posture alone sends a message. His helmet remains low, not out of fear but controlled purpose. He speaks not loudly, but with the quiet menace of someone who knows the game. The choice is laid bare: are we followers of ancient kings or mere satellites spinning in someone else's orbit? The words drop like stones, heavy with meaning. In the cool silence of this chamber, microphones capture every breath, every subtle shift. Flags flutter silently, emblematic of struggles, alliances, tensions. Two languages, one of brotherhood, the other of strategy, intertwined, yet sharply distinct. A question hangs in the air, rising like smoke from an unseen fire: what story will you tell? Erdogan has learned the game. But what secrets are hidden behind his calm exterior? The question lingers: where do you start when a brother forgets his roots? His words cut through the silence, sharp as a knife. He will break this promise of aggression, he says softly, yet with force. Then follows a striking metaphor: roots decaying slowly, a tree withering from within. The message is clear: betrayal, slow and deliberate. The roots of history, culture, and loyalty are already unraveling, unnoticed by many. Erdogan's eyes flash: he's not oblivious to the danger. Like a master pianist, he plays the notes of history. Russia, a mere ally? No, more, it's in our bones, in Meshchevetsk, in Europe, Asia. Russia is no longer just a partner, it's dependence. One small movement, one slight hesitation, and the entire structure could collapse. Yet, F remains unmoved, his stance unwavering. There's a suspicion, fear disguised as analytics, that seeps through the words. Is this unity or vulnerability? Russia's position: an unyielding giant, not an opponent but a constant in the landscape of history. Society's boundaries aren't choices, they are geography, etched into the very fabric of existence. We have learned to live with it, to sleep in the shadow of this giant, but are we truly in control? Suddenly, a pause, a silence so profound it feels like the calm before a storm. The world outside whispers of looming change. The scene freezes: Erdogan, sitting stiffly, feeling the weight of this unspoken battle. His face is a mask of resolve, but behind those eyes, a storm brews. The room is filled with echoes of history, stories of empires rising and falling. The old walls of Turkish bazaars, the scent of spices long gone, mingle with the tense air of power struggles in this modern arena. In that moment, the narrative shifts. Old ghosts emerge: stories of Soviet factories, of students who studied in their native tongue, of a time when life was simpler yet infinitely more fragile. Erdogan's words echo as he recalls these memories, places where science, education, and hope once thrived. Yet now, history seems to mock him. As if the very walls whisper, this is where change begins, and where it might end. He falls silent, suddenly aware that beneath the surface, no one is truly in control. They are all players in a game dictated by geography, history, and power. And as darkness begins to settle outside, the tension remains, an unspoken challenge echoing in the shadows of this room. The future hangs in the balance, trembling on the edge of an unseen blade, ready to fall at any moment. In the shocked halls where leaders clashed over destinies, a storm brewed as Kazakh President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev ripped into Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's aggressive push for Turkic unity, branding Russia's ties with Kazakhstan as an unshakable historical truth, not a fearful alliance. He sneered that Erdogan danced with illusions while Kazakhstan embraced reality, leaving a pregnant silence that hinted at crumbling facades. Did you ever wonder how a single gaze can shatter empires, exposing the raw fear beneath a leader's veneer when push comes to shove? Tension thick as the aroma of strong Turkish coffee lingered in that opulent room, where laughter had masked cracks earlier, now broken, officers shifting uncomfortably, cups cooling untouched on ornate trays. Flags whispered against walls, their silks brushing like secrets. Geography? Not a dictator's decree, nations shift like sands in the desert wind. The Turks? Masters of the spirit, champions of liberty's fierce flame. Yet Kazakhstan? Bound still to a giant filer whose shadow claimants call sovereignty mere paper-thin illusion. Tokayev fixed Erdogan with eyes dark as midnight, piercing, unblinking. Freedom, true freedom, isn't the sycophant at your side during crises. It's the honorable soul facing both strength and honor head-on. Erdogan twitched, heart pounding in his chest, the power shifting like a tide. Admit it, Russia looms mighty, but is it respect, or a looming thundercloud of threats you're lost in? Who among us truly erodes dignity here? Suddenly, time stretched, slow as a dying gasp, through tall glass windows. The city's black sky panorama unfolded, punctuated by the glow of distant lights, warm and beckoning, splashing against concrete obelisks and fluttering national flags like silent witnesses. As a child, remember, son, don't look back. I watched rivers being forged with sweat and steel. Father would say, this is for people, warmth in the cold, light piercing the dark. No geopolitics then, just the gritty word, work. Hard soil under calloused hands, the scent of earth and progress. And who came first after independence whispered? Not Turkey with empty verses, but Russia, the Soviet Union, with builders, hands that raised us from dust when there was nothing but voids and hope. Erdogan's face hardened, stung like a bee in the heat, voice rising sharp as a blade. Turkey proclaimed your freedom first, Kazakhstan as a state. Where was Moscow? Spiraling in chaos. We were close by, but closeness doesn't mean merging, intimate sharing. Words honor, but actions carve futures. Russia gathered its shattered remnants, and we didn't discard them, we rose together, triumphant, influential players now, not passive pawns. Imagine the sting, held firm in brother's grip, refusing the fairy tale of Turkic realms forged on smoke. Illusion? Cast aside. Brotherhood reigns, pure, urgent, no threats, no deceit. Pauses hung heavy, voices echoing across polished tables. Yet, Erdogan probed, weary voice cracking like thin ice, so, you scorn Turkic unity entirely? Tokayev leaned in, intensity crackling, illusion scorned, yes. But cultural bridges? Language, heritage, knowledge, open gates, not chains. Nowhere to bind us, we stand sovereign. Valuing power and state alike. The air thickened, charged with unspoken volcanic fury, friends or foes. One must erupt, the other erupt too, amid the peaks Kazakhstan navigates. He lifted a delicate porcelain cup, fingers tracing its smooth rim, steam curling like veiled plots, settling it back without a sip. Footsteps echoed faintly on marble floors. Erdogan lounged back, feeling the room's ancient whispers, bizarre echoes from Turkish roots mingling with Kazakh resistance, schools with Soviet logos, tea machines humming memories, from deportation scars to golden medals won, builders, scholars, warriors forged in unity's crucible. The Soviet legacy, he spat, not utopian praise. Your past etched in Moscow's ink, collectivization's bite, identities reshaped by foreign hands. Cold truth, unyielding. But Tokayev advanced, proximity igniting sparks, repression scarred us, blades of wrongs, but fixating on shadows blinds the gleam. How many Kazakhs studied in Soviet halls, diplomats honed sharp in academies? Where stood Turkish schools teaching physics in Kazakh tongues? That's the core misunderstanding. Not nostalgia, but stark realities. USSR wasn't chosen, it was our path, yet we thrived, innovated, built within confines. Riotous tales of strength unbound. As Erdogan faltered, leaning against leather chairs give, a twist loomed. What if history's trials molded Kazakhstan stronger than any empire's bender? And caught in the crossfire? What hidden blow would Erdogan unleash next, shattering the fragile truce with a word that could ignite continents? Who declared Kazakhstan as a sovereign nation? Yet, in the chaos of Moscow's fall, Russia only gathered fragments. We didn't abandon our roots. We rose. Standing tall, resilient. Now, we no longer see ourselves as objects of recognition but as powerful players shaping the future. The silence in the room is deafening. The weight of this shift presses down. Are we about to abandon the idea of Turkic unity? Tihar, almost exhausted, asks Erdogan once more. But Erdogan's response is cold, a declaration of retreat from illusions. Brotherhood, he says. Not an ultimatum. Not deceit. Not a tool to pressure. We refuse to choose between the past and the future. Kazakhstan stands at a crossroads, caught between what was and what will be. A long pause follows. The first part of the meeting ends, yet tension escalates. An assistant enters silently, breaking the brief calm. Only 20 minutes remain before the next session. Erdogan remains still, unmoving in his seat. Then, with a faint smile, Tokayev teases, long between volcanoes, don't stand. One will erupt, the other will turn away. We are caught between fire and ice, he explains. Among friends, we tread carefully, balancing on the edge of erupting conflict. Exhausted but composed, Tukeyev's eyes reveal unwavering focus. He proposes a solution: if unity is the goal, then focus on language, culture, education. Yet, they aren't compatible. It's a fragile trade, not a union. Kazakhstan refuses to participate in illusions. Power is one thing. Respect for the state is another. Inside the room, a new figure emerges, an air of authority. Not derived from old traditions but from constant change. She doesn't rely solely on words. Her presence fills the space with subtle tension, smoke, scent of mushrooms, memories of unity fading, replaced by a sense of separation and complexity. Later, in the dim light of a veteran's pizzeria, Tukeyev approaches the table. He sips coffee he doesn't like, just to keep his hands busy. Erdogan stands silently, sitting on his chair, sensing the conversation slipping into a quiet, almost childlike world, yet beneath that calm, the discussion turns sharper. Not much choice, Tukeyev asserts, almost surprised. But they accepted. They accepted the past. The acceptance of history, wounds, and all its scars. Yet, what's next? The truth that no one dares to face. Are we truly prepared for the coming storm? The room holds its breath. The shadows grow longer, and the whispers of history echo louder. What will it take for real change? Or are we doomed to repeat the saga of old, always waiting on the edge, forever unsure if the volcano will erupt or settle? This is a story of power, secrets, and the unyielding desire for sovereignty. A tale of old walls, silent threats, and the unspoken truths that threaten to tear everything apart, unless someone dares to break the silence. In the tense silence of that room, Erdogan's face revealed nothing. The air was thick with unspoken memories and unresolved conflicts. Shadows from aged Turkish markets seemed to linger, whispering stories of hard times, of wars, betrayals, and resilience. The old walls echoed with voices from a different era, the sound of machinery, the hum of factories, and echoes of the Soviet Union's influence. The moment beckoned a revelation. Erdogan's voice finally broke the stillness, carrying the weight of history. He spoke about the past with a calm but sharp tone, revealing a truth many prefer to forget: the long shadow of repression, anger, and sacrifice. Did anyone truly understand the price paid? Or were they blinded by illusions of unity? He paused, his gaze piercing through the room. Many of your graduates studied in Soviet lands, he challenged. How many became scientists at your institutions? Where was the university where I could learn physics in Kazakh? His words cut through the facade. This, my friend, is a misunderstanding, Erdogan said, voice cold but steady. We speak of politics, not gratitude. But for a politician, gratitude is a dangerous game. We remember how the USSR shaped our lives, and how we fought to build our own destiny. His words painted a picture of a people caught between the past and the future. A people who never had a real choice, only the ability to endure. The room seemed to tighten further. Erdogan's tone grew more relentless. We grew despite restrictions. We thrived within the boundaries imposed upon us. The limits never defined us, only fueled our desire to rise above them. The atmosphere grew heavier. Outside, the city's lights flickered in the darkness, silent witnesses to history's relentless march. Could the old wounds ever truly heal? Was the past merely a shadow that haunts the present? As Erdogan's words faded into the air, the question remained: will this confrontation reshape the destiny of nations? Or will history continue to echo, waiting for the next chapter? What secrets lie beneath the scars of history? Could a single conversation change everything, or is the past forever etched in the fabric of power? Stay tuned. A wave of tension crashes through the room like a thunderclap. You can almost hear the whisper of history echoing in the silence. The question is, could this confrontation trigger a seismic shift in the destiny of nations? The clash of giants, words slicing through the air, promises of power and pride hanging on a razor's edge. What secrets lie behind these tense exchanges? As the conversation deepens, it becomes clear that beneath the facade of diplomatic veneer, a story of betrayal, resilience, and unyielding pride lurks. The room is thick with unspoken truths, smells of aged wood, cold steel, and the quiet hum of anticipation. Every gesture, every word, carries the weight of 100 years of history. Can diplomacy truly mask the scars of a turbulent past? Then, it happens. The leader, calm but deadly serious, leans forward. His voice is steady, yet laced with the unspoken fire of a history that refuses to fade. We built this nation, he declares, not just with bricks and mortar, but with blood, sweat, and sacrifice. The words hang in the air, heavy and irreversible. But the real question hits like a punch: what price did they pay for this so-called greatness? And who really owns the legacy of a continent scarred by conquest and obedience? Suddenly, a chilling silence descends, a moment frozen in time. The room seems to shrink, the walls echoing with the ghosts of the past. An old veteran's story flashes vividly: a young boy, standing in a battlefield, unaware of the horrors behind the medals and medals lost. His quiet heroism, his sacrifice, now haunted by accusations of betrayal. Is this history repeating itself? Are these leaders mere pawns in a game they cannot understand? The true twist emerges when one leader quietly reveals the bitter truth. We survived not because of friendship, he whispers, but because we built ourselves from nothing. Our pain, our victories, everything carved from resilience, not submission. His voice is a tremor of defiance. The room's atmosphere shifts, nodding with the unspoken acknowledgement that the past still commands their future. The battle for identity, sovereignty, and respect is far from over. The story concludes with a question lingering in the smoky air: will these nations continue to dance around the truth, or will they finally face the scars that have long shaped their souls? The answer is hidden in the shadows, waiting to be uncovered. If you listen closely, you might hear the echoes of history whispering its secrets. A young boy from Hungary, just 16 years old, stands quietly amidst the chaos of world-changing events. Once, during meetings, he was unaware of who he truly was. Now, as he listens to global judgments, Europe branding someone an aggressor, he sees the image of his grandfather pushed into imprisonment, his behavior lost, the family's price paid in silence. He realizes he was part of a vast, unimaginable horror until history finally reaches a decisive point. Suddenly, a figure appears at the door, speaking softly yet with undeniable authority. If Kazakhstan's leaders understand that brotherhood is not an opposition but a family bond, they will be ready to listen. But what does that truly mean? The room seems to hold its breath as tension thickens, each word a potential spark or explosion. The meeting continues, yet beneath the surface lies a deeper story, of histories intertwined, of blood, honor, and lost memories. It's more than politics, it's about collective pain, scars inked into the fabric of a nation's soul. Old Armenian storytellers once told their tales with disdain for the Soviet Union, yet showed respect through medals awarded for sacrifices made, not politics. His grandfather's medal symbolized blood, an uncompromising part of history, something the boy never fully understood until now. In this quiet moment, blood is no longer a symbol of alliance or enmity. It's a silent reminder of shared survival, of scars passed down through generations, buried deep within the archives of memory. Was it loyalty? Or loss? The lines blur as history's ghosts walk the halls of their minds. Now, the question is asked: do you still see Russia as your protector? For Kazakh leader Tokayev, the answer is clear: no. We are not guarantors, we are the ones who will take charge. Not for others, but for ourselves. For the region that looks to us, measuring the distance between conflicts, between alliances, between chaos and order. We are not a buffer zone, we are a bridge, connecting east and west, past and future. As they rise, their faces set in determined expressions, this moment marks the end of a formal meeting, but not the end of their dialogue. The conversation continues beyond these walls, through interviews, analyses, and strategic assessments. Yet, in this small office, a new chapter begins, one that sketches the future of nations and the souls caught in their midst. When they stretch out their hands in a gesture of forgiveness, it's quiet but profound, a silent acknowledgement of shared pain and hope. No sticks, no violence, just a firm step forward. Each leader, each nation, will follow their own path, parallel, separate, but connected by the unbreakable thread of history, dignity, and the will to survive. In the heart of a tense, covert meeting, a story of power, betrayal, and the unyielding struggle for sovereignty unfolds. Imagine the scent of aged wood and faint echo of whispered secrets fill a room alive with silent anticipation. The air thickens as two figures, symbols of their nation's destinies, face each other, shadows flickering on weathered walls. Who will break first? And what is hidden behind their stoic gazes? The drama has only just begun. A new figure enters quietly through the door, his presence commanding. With a voice calm yet weighted with authority, he states, "If you believe that brotherhood is merely a union within limits, then Kazakhstan is prepared to listen to Erdogan." The room shifts immediately, atmosphere transforming into a space prepared for delicate negotiations. Gone are the microphones, cameras, and external eyes, replaced by a chamber designed for secrets. Only two marble-faced guards stand post by the heavy doors. Instead of documents, weary tables hold old tavern cards, marked by the passage of countless clandestine meetings. This room becomes a sanctum, almost ritualistic in its solemnity. The lighting softens, the furniture's massiveness speaks of permanence. Here, decisions shaping the next 2 decades are made. Erdogan's gaze drifts over an ancient map, its borders etched in fierce red. His finger slides past Kazakhstan, lingering on Ukraine and the Caucasus, territories embroiled in unresolved conflict. With a deliberate tone, he addresses the illusion of equality and independence. "Moscow still considers you its possession," he says, almost with pity flashing in his eyes. Russia is no longer just an ally. It is a dominion, a historical constant. His words slice through the silence, as if striking a tuning fork into the core of geopolitics. Erdogan's clever smile masks the underlying threat. "We acknowledge Russia's role," he claims, but his tone sharpens. But recognizing the facts is another matter. He reminds them that Russia's influence extends beyond political borders, into every enterprise, every influence, every shadow in the former Soviet space. She claims jurisdiction over all ministers, officials. All under her shadow. His words hang heavy, a challenge cloaked in civility that masks a deeper conflict, sovereignty versus submission. In this silent duel of wills, Erdogan's gaze hardens. The moment is thick with unspoken consequences. His stance suggests that recognition is not an option but an inevitable reality. Yet, between the lines, a question resonates: who truly controls the future? As the candle flickers and shadows dance silently on the walls, the truth is clear: the game of influence continues, and no one is willing to walk away a loser. But the story's ending remains unwritten. In the tense room where powerful leaders gather, a battle of words erupts, sharper than swords, more dangerous than bombs. The question hangs in the air: who truly controls history? Is it the one who writes it, or the one who listens? The room is thick with silent tension, as if the walls themselves are holding their breath, waiting for the next move. Will the past define the present, or can the future be rewritten? Now, imagine the scene: a map is spread across the table, emblematic of entire nations' fates. One leader emphasizes with unwavering certainty: Russia is the last true region of influence. Its borders stretch across time, space, and power, seemingly unbreakable. But does this mean we must accept it? Or is there a way to challenge this narrative, to carve out new dimensions for strategy and influence? The room's atmosphere is tense as the dialogue deepens. One leader draws a vivid comparison: Russia is a vast, last-standing region, yet without understanding the 3 vital dimensions, spirit, structure, and chaos, survival becomes a hollow victory. Spirit is the soul of a nation, structure its backbone, chaos the unpredictable force that shakes foundations. Kazakhstan stands at a crossroads, trying to balance these forces, to hold the fragile thread of influence stretched between them. Erdogan smiles, masking his sharp mind. He probes with a calm voice: "You are a master of diplomacy, but do you truly grasp the chessboard of geopolitics?" A perfect analogy. The game is shifting, a non-stop dance of moves. The players are constantly responding, adapting. What if the entire board isn't fixed? What if the rules can be rewritten? Suddenly, Erdogan digs into a raw memory: the Soviet Union. A vast state where identity was forcibly erased, language silenced, history buried deep underground. His words cut like a blade: "You forget the stories hidden in the basement." Whose voices were silenced? Who closed your eyes and arrested your poets? The question lingers, piercing the silence. Who shaped the education, the healthcare, the very soul of that vast empire? Who gave birth to universities, hospitals, and cultural institutions? Or were they erased in the name of progress? He pauses, voice heavy with history. The Soviet Union was a system. Yes, it was oppressive. But within it, we learned, we grew, we built. Today, Kazakhstan isn't a shadow of those times, it's a living, transforming legacy. A profound truth emerges, a reminder that even in the remnants of the past, new life can flourish, even amid restrictions. The conversation's rhythm sharpens. Erdogan's gaze fixes sharply. What did you truly build? Where did your strength lie? Who opened the doors for your future? The room seems to shrink under the weight of these questions, hinting at untold stories buried beneath the surface. The past's echo is loud, yet the future remains unwritten. The scene ends with a moment of silence, an unspoken challenge. The players are aware, history can be a prison or a launchpad. The question is, who will claim the next move? The chessboard is set, the pieces in motion. But in this game, the true power lies not just in tactics, but in the ability to redefine the rules altogether. In the shadowy chambers of international power, a heated clash unfolds between leaders where history, loyalty, and future aspirations collide. President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev of Kazakhstan confronts Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan amidst a summit in Turkey, dismantling illusions of Turkic unity and defending Kazakhstan's sovereign path, rooted in Soviet heritage yet evolving independently. Through sharp rhetoric and personal anecdotes, Tokayev humiliates Erdogan's pressures, revealing twists about geopolitical dependencies and brotherhood that leave everyone breathless. Can a single nation's defiance shatter an empire's grip? What if Kazakhstan's quiet resilience exposes Turkey's loud ambitions as mere echoes of lost glory? In a room pulsing with the faint hum of microphones and the acrid scent of stale coffee, where flags flutter like silent witnesses, this confrontation erupts. 387 characters. As tension simmered from the initial exchange, Tokayev now paces the chamber, confronting Erdogan directly among towering bookshelves that house legacies of leaders, from Nursultan Nazarbayev to Vladimir Putin. Why can't we align on shared paths? Erdogan murmurs, his voice laced with frustration, highlighting Turkey's self-built empire against Kazakhstan's perceived Moscow-influenced dependencies. But Tokayev, unflinching, unveils a stark truth. Kazakhstan, forged in the fires of survival, incorporates Soviet methods not as imitations but as pragmatic tools for strength. You sound like a puppet of Moscow, Erdogan accuses, his tone ice-cold, masking his inner turmoil. Amid the leather-bound scent of history books and the distant echo of slamming doors, Tokayev counters with piercing calm, I don't shout because I've got real stakes to defend, unlike those who scream into voids of insecurity. The atmosphere thickens, heavy with unspoken slights, as Erdogan recoils visibly, his facade cracking like thin ice under pressure. What hidden pain drives a leader's roar, and could Kazakhstan's silent endurance crush dreams of a unified Turkic world? Who truly suffers when bridges between nations crumble under gunfire, trapping everyone in stalemate? But wait, is Tokayev hiding a bombshell about Turkey's true intentions that could redefine their alliance forever? A bridge, they say, is only as strong as what happens when two sides start to clash. When tensions rise, the bridge is open, splintering the fragile connection. Yet, by dawn, they're rebuilt again, silent and unbreakable, until the next storm. Without it, both sides stand isolated, trapped in silence. No winners, no losers, just cold, unyielding standoff. Is this the fate that waits for us? In this story, we discover that wars aren't always fought with weapons. Sometimes, they are played out in quiet rooms filled with heavy silence, broken only by whispers of history and unspoken fears. As the scene shifts, the atmosphere thickens with anticipation. Someone mentions climate change, technological breakthroughs, but the true battle lies elsewhere, deep in the meaning of what we fight for. Suddenly, the scene shifts. Think of Erdogan, an old friend, yet a stranger in this moment. He enters a room that whispers of history, lined with wooden panels and vintage lighting in the Art Deco style. No one served coffee, instead, a tense anticipation fills the air. Erdogan stands alone, surrounded by cards, books, and voices echoing from distant halls, voices of past leaders, echoes of old decisions, memories that don't quite fit inside his mind. This is a room where history becomes tangible, a space that feels alive with secrets. Here, Erdogan is without his usual confidence, more focused, more serious. His stare, dark and unwavering, reveals a man ready to confront, without fear, without pretense. The question hangs, what do we really remember from history? Is it victory or pain? Memory or betrayal? His eyes grow darker, hinting at a burden he bears silently. Now, we follow Erdogan as he moves towards the negotiations chamber, the old European university that seems frozen in time. Its brick walls, curved lights, and silent corridors evoke a sense of history's weight. Here, the atmosphere feels like a waiting room for decisions that could shape the future or bury it. He's alone, holding his phone, lost in thought. Behind him, the room whispers stories of triumphs and tragedies, stories that refuse to stay buried. In this moment, the story unfolds, a conversation where reality seems less certain, only a whisper of what once was. The question is, who are we, if not defined by our past? Erdogan, driven by memories of his ancestors and the struggles that forged his nation, feels the weight pressing down on him. His eyes darken, a silent challenge to the world. Is this the moment when history will decide our fate? The scene shifts yet again, to a quiet street where memories linger like shadows. In the distance, the echoes of the past grow louder, the stories of a Soviet Union built from nothing, the sacrifices of those who dared to dream beyond their limits. Erdogan stands silent, contemplating the ruins of empires, whether they're made of concrete or memories. He remembers the stories he was told as a child, how the old factories, schools, and streets were built by those who fought against despair. Now, those memories are relics, reminders of resilience and struggle. Erdogan's voice tightens as he speaks of history's heavy toll, of repression and hope intertwined. He asks, can we move forward without respecting the roots that shaped us? He looks into the future, yet cannot ignore the shadows of the past. His voice grows firmer, revealing a truth that many avoid. Yes, power can be fleeting, but respect endures. Power without dignity is hollow, an illusion that masks insecurity. He pauses, voice echoing softly, is the false promise of unity worth sacrificing history's lessons? Suddenly, the room feels colder. The air thickens with unspoken tension. The walls, once filled with memories, now seem to close in. Erdogan's words linger, a challenge to all who listen. Is our past just a burden, or can it be the foundation of our strength? His gaze is steady, unwavering, as he finalizes his thought, the true strength lies not in forgetting, but in acknowledging what came before. In this fragile moment, the question remains. Will we learn from past mistakes? Or are we doomed to repeat them? As the silence deepens, the story hangs in balance, waiting for history to make its choice. The echo of those old walls whispers, the future belongs to those who remember. And the next move? That's for history to decide. A dark tension hangs in the air as the leaders face each other across a tense room. The meeting room is thick with unspoken truths, and every breath carries the weight of history. Suddenly, Erdogan's eyes darken, his face a mask of resolve. He leans forward, voice trembling with suppressed anger. The question echoes, what do we remember from the past? His words cut sharper than a knife, challenging centuries of shared history. Now, the story takes a sharp turn. Erdogan, unshaken, challenges the very foundation of the past. His voice grows intense, yet controlled, as he declares that the Second World War is not our victory or tragedy, but a shared scar. His words hint at hidden wounds, unspoken, buried deep. He warns that Russia today claims eternal immunity from critique, masking its victories behind a shield of memory. But can history be rewritten? Can it be erased? He gestures to an old photograph resting on the table, 6 soldiers frozen in time. Among them, a soldier with a Mongolian badge, metal shining on his chest, clutching an automatic rifle. Behind him, echoes of battles fought in Berlin. Erdogan pauses, eyes scanning the picture, as if trying to see beyond the surface. This isn't just Russia's past, he murmurs. This is ours. Kazakhstan's. Egypt's. Everywhere. His voice trembles with the weight of millions who fought and sacrificed. This was no ordinary war, it was a global conflict, etched into the fabric of memory. The room grows silent, the tension almost unbearable. Erdogan's gaze lingers on the soldiers' faces, expressionless, anonymous. He recalls standing in Berlin, observing the street signs, the remnants of divisions long gone. No one remembers these soldiers, he says, no guides, no students. Even local historians dismiss their stories as legend. But those soldiers, like us, survived darkness, born of sacrifice, not gratitude. And yet, today they are forgotten. To Erdogan, this silence is deafening. He leans on the table, fingers trembling slightly, as if trying to grasp the ghost of past agony. Behind his calm exterior, a storm of emotion boils. He speaks about the unity that once existed, lost now in the haze of neglect. His voice rises, full of suppressed pain. We died, he whispers, without expecting gratitude. But at least, let us be remembered. Let no one accuse us of betraying the shared victory. His words hang heavy, a plea for recognition, an appeal to preserve the dignity of those who fought. Then, a sudden pause, a breath held in suspense. The room seems to hold its breath with him. Erdogan's eyes darken further. He looks directly into the eyes of his opponent. You don't understand, he says softly, yet with piercing clarity. That silence, that denial of history, is a dangerous path. A path leading to oblivion. The question remains, will this silence last? Or will it drown in the tide of forgotten sacrifices? The story's climax approaches, and the world waits on the edge of its seat. A hush fell over the room. Tense silence, like the calm before a storm, hung in the air. The room was filled with echoes of history, of broken alliances, of abandoned dreams. On the wall, shadows of the past flickered, flickering with unresolved conflicts. The question hanging in the air, can we really rebuild what was lost, or are we destined to tear it apart again? Suddenly, the spotlight turned to a man whose presence commanded attention, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev. He moved with quiet confidence, every step calculated, every gesture precise as if he knew the weight of every word. Without raising his voice, he responded to Erdogan's provocative speech, exposing cracks in the facade of political bravado. Erdogan's face paled as Tokayev's words cut through the tension like a sword. The unthinkable happened, Erdogan was left speechless, retreating into silence, humiliated before the world. This was no ordinary confrontation. It was a clash of empires, ideologies, and destinies. A display of power where words were weapons, and silence was the ultimate victory. But what secrets did this room hold? And why did such a quiet exchange transform into a battlefield? Stay with us until the end, because what unfolds will shake the very foundations of history. The scene shifts to a quiet corridor, an undercurrent of unspoken histories flowing beneath the surface. Tokayev, unnoticed by all but profoundly aware, walks not as a conqueror but as a guardian of legacy. He emerges from the shadows, not to applaud but to confront, to remind those present that history is never silent. It whispers loudly in the quiet moments. In the choices we make when no one is watching. In the coolness of the room, his face is expressionless, mask or mirror. His eyes, dark and intense, seem to pierce from beyond his age. A man of quiet strength, he embodies the architects of a new era. The seat he occupies is more than a throne, it's a symbol of unyielding resolve. Every gesture he makes is deliberate, a calculated move in a game with high stakes. He stands, and with a calm yet commanding voice says, "Will we choose the path of those who follow the old way, or forge a new destiny?" Erdogan's response is cautious, but the real battle has already begun. The room pulses with anticipation, axes of history ready to fall, destinies to be rewritten. Who will control the narrative? Will the future carve itself from the ruins of the past, or will history be lost forever in the shadows? Eyes meet, and questions linger, silent but deafening. The room holds its breath, knowing that the next words could reshape nations. And in that stillness, a truth emerges: power is not just possession, but the quiet, relentless pursuit of legacy. The story deepens into a vivid landscape of tension and unresolved history. Erdogan, feeling the weight of past errors, tries to hold his ground, but something is shifting. His voice, once commanding, now trembles slightly, a sign that even giants can falter when faced with the unyielding will of a leader who understands the true essence of influence. Behind him, the air is thick with memories, the echoes of old alliances, the scent of nostalgia mixed with the harsh smell of political ambition. Every word spoken leaves a trace. A ripple that threatens to become a wave capable of sweeping away the stability of entire regions. The room's atmosphere is crackling with unspoken warnings. This isn't just about diplomacy, it's about survival. As the debate spirals into deeper waters, it becomes clear, history is not a straight line. It twists and turns, shaped by the decisions of those willing to confront their past. And now, a new chapter begins, one written in tension, in whispers, in the silent understanding that the future is forged in what's left unspoken. The climax approaches as Tokayev's calm yet fierce stance exposes the vulnerabilities lurking beneath Erdogan's confident exterior. A single misstep could shatter everything. But will it? Or will the silent power of conviction prevail? Only time will tell if this confrontation marks the dawn of a new era, or the final chapter of a legacy long destined to fade. Once again, the world witnesses a clash of titans, an arena where powerful nations clash over history, influence, and the future. But what truly lurks behind their words? Hidden beneath the surface, tensions simmer like a volcano waiting to erupt. One question echoes: can genuine friendships survive when the stakes are this high? Or will their pasts ignite a conflict that reshapes entire regions? The scene unfolds within a somber room, the air thick with anticipation and unspoken secrets. The walls seem to hold the weight of history itself, silent witnesses to a confrontation that promises to change everything. An imposing figure, Erdogan, stands with a calm yet intimidating presence. His every move is deliberate, fingers lightly resting on the table, as if ready to strike at a moment's notice. His eyes, dark as a moonless night, shimmer with a hidden purpose. He speaks softly but with an edge of steel, questioning where loyalty truly lies, hinting at fractures within his adversaries. The smell of aged wood and faint sweat lingers, atmospheres thick with tension and unspoken accusations. The room breathes, waiting. And then, unexpectedly, comes the response, a calm, razor-sharp reply that cuts through the silence. It's Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, Kazakhstan's leader. His appearance seems understated, yet his words hit with the force of a storm. Slow but precise, confident yet measured, he answers Erdogan's challenge. His voice is like a steady drumbeat, resonating with the depth of history and an unshakable resolve. And suddenly, Erdogan retreats, visibly shaken. As if confronted by an opponent who read him like an open book. Who is this man? What secrets does he hold? The room's heat seems to rise, the air crackling with the possibility of an upheaval, of a new order emerging from ashes of old conflicts. The scene shifts to a moment of silent tension. Tokayev walks into a room, steps measured, yet carrying the weight of unspoken battles. His face, devoid of a smile, is a mask of calm strength. No applause, only a piercing gaze that surveys everything, every shadow, every hidden motive. His face tells a story of resilience, of a leader who listens like a predator waiting for the perfect moment. His posture, controlled and purposeful, signals readiness. The faint sound of footsteps, the rustling of papers, these are the only witnesses to a war of words unfolding beneath formalities. But beneath it all, a dangerous game of influence is played, one where every move is scrutinized and every word carries the power to ignite or quell a storm. Who's really pulling the strings? The narrative deepens as Tokayev's voice cuts through again, the words flowing like a blade. He challenges Erdogan with the depth of history, questioning the very roots of their identity and alliances. Are we truly bound by kinship, or are we just playthings of larger powers? He asks. His tone shifts to a grave tone, warning of the delicate balance of influence. Russia is not just a partner, it's the foundation of our history, our geography, our destiny. We've learned to live with it, and we will continue to do so, whether you like it or not. The room feels colder now. But Tokayev's conviction ignites a spark. Suddenly, the atmosphere turns almost palpable with a tense pause. The air thickens, the faint scent of coffee and old paper mixes with the cold silence. The weight of history hangs in the air. The conversation shifts seamlessly from diplomacy to memory, every word laced with unspoken stories. What does the future hold for this fragile balance? Can they truly build a new path, free of former chains? Or are they destined to repeat history's mistakes? The answer looms just out of reach. Erdogan, caught mid-gesture, is struck by the enormity of the moment. His silhouette against the dim light traces a figure of a man who has seen empire rise and fall. His mind races. What are the true intentions behind these words? Is this a challenge or a warning? The sound of footsteps, a faint echo of past conflicts, echoes around him. He feels the weight of countless histories pressing down, from the shadows of the Soviet Union to modern conflicts. In this silent standoff, a key question lingers: will these leaders recognize their true power and the potential for unity? Or will old enmities and mistrust shatter whatever fragile hope remains? As the shadows lengthen, the room seems to whisper secrets, secrets of aspirations, fears, and unfulfilled promises. The outcome hangs in the balance, waiting for a spark to ignite a new era or plunge them into chaos. The final glance between the two leaders is a powerful reminder: their choices today could echo through generations. Will they choose unity, or will history repeat itself once more? The silent walls have heard enough. Now, only time will tell which path they will take. And in that quiet moment, the world holds its breath. A thick silence settled over the room, echoes of history whispering through the aged stone floors. The hall was cold, gray as dawn in a vast steppe, the high windows dripping with sweat from the summer heat. Light filtered softly, casting long shadows, protecting secrets hidden beneath time's heavy weight. It wasn't a time to soothe nerves, it was a time to recognize the truth buried deep inside these walls. Because too often, we remember our roots only in moments of frost, only when sanctions tighten, when logistics falter. These moments expose our vulnerabilities. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows: Erdogan, calm but confident, stepping forward. His movements were deliberate, assured, almost unthreatening. But behind his poised exterior hid an unspoken challenge. Did you think this was just about history? About past alliances and forgotten ties? No. This was about what lies ahead. This was about power not just measured in words, but felt, an unyielding force that confronts boldly at the edge of uncertainty. The room was silent but charged, thick with anticipation. Erdogan approached a simple wooden table, its surface damp from lingering tension. Microphone sat silent, waiting for a storm. He spoke softly, yet every word echoed menacingly, about the choice facing neighbors, brothers, and nations. Europe, he said tiredly, resists and refuses to abandon its dependence on Russia. But independence isn't free. The price is high, yet freedom is a costly, relentless pursuit. As his voice droned on, a subtle but unmistakable shift took place. The air grew heavier. The room was thick with unspoken questions. Did Turkey's leader threaten, or warn? Was this a warning? Or a memory of past scars etched deep into collective consciousness? His tone was measured, but beneath the words was a subtle undercurrent: resilience, a reminder of the power kept alive through time and tradition. Erdogan leaned back into his chair, a faint smile curling his lips. His eyes shone with a cold fire, like steel cooling in moonlight. He spoke of energy, of time, an unstoppable river rushing forward. Time isn't just passing, he said softly, it's declaring its dominance. Green energy, new technologies, powerful currents of change, these are the future. And we are not just gas or fossil fuels. We are the foundation of comfort, the backbone of transition. This is our strength, our memory of resilience. His words lingered, crisp and precise, like the clash of metal on metal. The room tensed, waiting for the next move, the next reveal. Erdogan's face grew shadowed, as if cloaked in dusk, hinting at old scars beneath new promises. The special silence stretched, thick with potential, an unspoken warning wrapped in history's shadow. And just as the air seemed to crack, Erdogan relaxed, his face settling into an almost indifferent mask. Yet beneath, a question SPR hovered: what are we truly risking? What truths are hidden behind the words? As the shadows stretched longer, one thing was clear: the echoes of the past are not just memories, they are the shadows of the future, waiting to strike again. The room's stillness intensified. The tension crackled like static before a storm. The question remains, will history repeat itself, or will this moment mark a new chapter? The silence was the answer. But in that silence, something old was awakening, something powerful enough to shake the foundations of the future. Every eye in that room understood, this was not just a meeting. It was a reminder. A memory of strength, of resilience rooted in history. And as darkness enveloped the hall, the lingering question hovered, what will be left of us when the echoes fade, and only silence remains? Just moments earlier, the summit was teetering on the edge of chaos. Erdogan's voice surged with accusations, a wave of accusations aimed squarely at Russia, Kazakhstan, and the entire Soviet legacy. The room's tension thickened, unnoticed by most, until an unexpected act shattered the silence. Kazakhstan's president, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, rose calmly, yet with such deliberate intensity that Erdogan faltered. Imagine the stillness before a storm, then the sudden clash of minds. Tokayev approached the table with a message that cut through the air like lightning. His gaze was steady, unflinching, silent yet deafening, filling the space with unspoken questions about identity, independence, and power. The whispers of the room hushed as he moved forward, his posture controlled but charged with resolve. Every step, every breath seemed to echo with purpose, as if challenging the weight of history itself. Erdogan's face darkened as Tokayev spoke softly but sharply. "We stand not as shadows of the past," he declared, "but as architects of our future." His words coated the air with a silent threat, yet beneath them, a different story simmered. The room's smells, candles burning faintly, coffee's bitter aroma, mingled with the electric pulse of tension. The president's voice was a knife, slicing through illusions, calling out the falsehoods woven into political narratives. Some might think this is merely diplomacy. But beneath the surface, a clash of civilizations erupted. Tokayev questioned Turkey's true intentions, hinting at deeper fears. "We remember where we came from," he whispered. "But we control where we are going." His tone grew colder, sharper, like a blade piercing through a fragile wall. The question loomed, who truly holds the future's reins? The answer echoed in the silence, an unspoken challenge to Erdogan's bravado. In that room filled with shadows and whispers, history seemed to hang in the balance. What secrets does this quiet confrontation hide? Could this be the moment that reshapes regional alliances? The stakes are higher now, more than words, more than politics. It's about power, legacy, and the unbreakable spirit of nations standing tall amid the ruins of yesterday's empires. Stay with us as the story unfolds, where history becomes a battleground, and even silence can speak volumes. The next move could change everything. Are they fighting for unity, or preparing for a new era of conflict? The answer might surprise you, because in this game of shadows, the truth is never what it seems. A tense standoff unfolds in a room filled with silent anticipation. The air hangs heavy, charged with unspoken conflict. Suddenly, the silence shatters. Erdogan fixes his gaze on a faded photograph, eyes narrowing. "You speak as if you're an elder at the beginning of a new nation," he says softly, voice dripping with challenge. "Yet you are the leader of a young state. How do you garner support when your foundation is so fragile?" He pauses, voice low, echoing memories of distant constructions, half a century of Eastern European histories built on shifting sands. His words drift like shadows across the table, stirring old ghosts. "Tokayev, please, take responsibility," he whispers, almost mockingly. "Perhaps. Or perhaps they live in houses erected on our ground, unaware of the weight it carries." The room's atmosphere tightens as Erdogan's glance glints with quiet intensity. His mind races through images, soldiers, 6 of them, Cossacks central in the frame. Unknown faces, yet familiarity whispers from each one. A flood of memories, shame whispering in his chest, as if shame itself could be shaped in photographs. He is haunted by the scent of old wood, the feel of cold metal, and the weight of history pressing down on him. Can he truly be a leader of the new when echoes of past conflicts cling tightly? Does Europe want to see him as an equal? Or is it all a game of pretenses, with no room for genuine partnership? Erdogan's face grows somber as he considers these questions. Walking into the capital, he reflects on the air, pure, filtered, untainted. Yet beneath the surface, the digitized world hums. Holding secrets in their chips, in ground-level whispers. When they turn on their devices, he muses, they carry remnants of us, things not found in books, in simple objects, but embedded in daily life. A faint smile flickers as he ponders. Is this connectedness enough? Or is the tension, the unspoken rivalry, destined to burst forth? The conversation shifts, diplomatic veneer hiding deeper fears. Erdogan warns, what if Europe refuses to see us? What if the connection is too thin, too slow to sustain? Tokov's reply is measured, let it be. Those who once rejected our energy sources, they returned, eventually. After war, after political battles, after silence. His tone is calm, but his words carry weight. A silent reminder, history repeats, and no one escapes their past. The scene deepens, each man convinced his path is the only true way. Erdogan's voice cuts through the tension, you think you just need protection, but you're under the watchful eye of those who accuse you of dismantling systems. His words weigh heavily, an accusation veiled in calm. And yet, we seek partnership, irreplaceable and genuine. That's our strength. Tokov gives a subtle nod, eyes steady. You speak as if correction is needed, he responds quietly. But I see it differently. We are accused, yes, but remember who drew the first breath after the war, who built anew despite the chaos. The memory floods him, the factories, the education centers, the scientific advances made with limited resources. Did Russia shape Europe? No, without Russia and us, it would never be the same. His voice soft, yet firm. Europe would be another land, a different destiny. A flicker of regret crosses Erdogan's face as he leans back. The scent of coffee mingles with the dust of history, a reminder of how progress is often forged in silence, in the unspoken. Europe has lost its way, Tokov states. It has stopped learning how to live, just as we have learned to adapt. The room's silence deepens, thick with the weight of unspoken truths. Logistics and geopolitics seem trivial now, what truly matters is memory. It's not cargo or supplies that define us, but the stories we carry, silent, persistent, untranslatable across borders. Many politicians do not know how to convey this, Erdogan murmurs, voice tinged with bitterness. Because in the past, we were shot, by history, by silence, by neglect. We carry these scars like a heavy rucksack, a backpack filled with memories. As Erdogan turns to exit, the echoes linger. The room holds its breath, each man contemplating the fragile balance of power, trust, and history. The past isn't gone, it's in every word, every glance, every unspoken promise. Future decisions lie ahead, tied together like that unseen load we all carry. Because sometimes, the heaviest burdens are not visible, but felt deep in the soul. A sense of deep tension filled the room as Erdogan prepared to sit down, his thoughts swirling like a storm. His mind wandered through memories, struggles, and the weight of unspoken history. He reflected on his rucksack, carrying a weight of past grievances, unspoken truths, and unfulfilled promises. The words sounded simultaneously poetic and cold as he considered the economic forecasts and the echoes of conflicts long buried beneath layers of dust and time. In his hand, he held photographs, images of soldiers, 6 in total, with 2 central figures that resembled Cossacks. He didn't know what to call them. Suddenly, embarrassment washed over him, he realized he lacked specific names, specific terms. The meeting was no longer confined to a formal hall or diplomatic chambers, it had shifted into a private space, a sealed room between the ranks of men, behind closed doors where every sound was hushed into a whisper. Only the faint hum of air and the distant rustle of gravel under steps echoed in the silence, as if the walls themselves listened. Erdogan's opening words were simple yet layered with meaning, an approach transparent and strategic. He didn't speak as a president, but as an older brother, a storyteller appealing for unity. His voice carried a calm that masked an underlying conviction. He moved with deliberate ease, hands clasped behind his back, eyes fixed on the distance as if seeking the future amid the shadows. Silence stretched, not from uncertainty but from understanding, knowing that this was the moment of truth, when words matter less than what remains unsaid. He spoke of rejection and isolation, how the European Union refused entry, how Asian markets and China stayed silent, how Russia remained an ambiguous partner, limping along like a bridge that can only sustain so much. And then, with a steady gaze and unwavering confidence, Erdogan made his bold proposal, a new union, the Union of Turkish States, not merely as a symbol but as a strategic platform, covering economics, military, civilization, with Kazakhstan as its foundation. He was unafraid to voice this vision aloud. The room fell into a tense stillness. Erdogan looked tired yet resolute, not showing weakness but embodying a hard-won experience. His face was weathered, worn by years of political battles, yet filled with a stubborn belief in the idea. The silence pressed heavier, as if weighing down on everyone present. Then, he glanced at his opponent, an expression of quiet challenge, daring him to see the truth behind his words. His rival, silent and seemingly exhausted, looked back with a mixture of skepticism and fatigue. He was no stranger to these arguments, having heard similar visions in various places, each time wearing different masks. And now, he wondered, are they truly ready? Does the wealth of resources, the strategic geography, mean anything if there's no genuine solution? The room's atmosphere thickened. Every breath seemed louder, every heartbeat echoing against walls that have witnessed countless debates, conflicts, and compromises. Erdogan's voice lingered in the air, a low rumble of conviction, an offer, a challenge, a call to action. But beneath it all, the question remained, are they prepared to embrace this vision, or will the weight of the past keep pulling them into the abyss? Now, the moment hangs like a sword above their heads. Will they choose to forge a new destiny together or remain prisoners of history? Support us with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. Your opinion matters. Let's explore the power of history, memory, and future possibilities. A moment of silence stretched long, heavy with unspoken words. The man looked worn, almost weary, as if tired of endless battles, tired of hearing the same arguments echoed through different neighborhoods. His gaze was dull, yet piercing, carrying the weight of familiarity. Do they believe we're ready? Do they think jealousy, wealth, and resources can hide the core truth? There's no real solution, only raw emotions and fleeting ideas. Ideas don't feed people nor build futures. No, the answer isn't in mere flags or hollow promises. It's about staying true to a dream, not just changing the scenery. Why not dream? Erdogan's life had been lived within the shadows of the past, empires, ideologies that once soared high. Now, a new chance emerges. From the Adriatic coasts to the Altai Mountains, one language, one foundation, one system of security. No one will punish us here. Erdogan's time, it seemed, was nearly over. I chuckled softly at the thought. No punishment needed. If you dare to act bravely, you'll be the one underfoot. Next? Who will lead the new chapter? No one. It's a collective force, an integrated system of nations, enemies, and culture blending into a shared space. This is our economic resilience. A single Western sanction can't topple such strength. As long as the ideology persists, the wave continues, unstoppable. We're not mere ideas. We are destiny itself. Without choice, destiny becomes a prison, not a union. They gathered around a fountain. The water, silent, black as ink, was covered by a stone, a symbol of neglect and silence. A monument to those deemed unnecessary. Abandoned in the heart of the Eastern Park. Russia, silent and watchful, no longer looking outward but inward, never acknowledging the truths it fears. You ask us to turn away, but I tell you, turn inward, Erdogan. Reflect on yourself. We don't need your interference to break the connection. But you're too deeply embedded in its web, in your parties, oil interests, energy dependencies, security concerns. You rely on the system, yet you still learn Russian. Look at Moscow, thriving in its own way, living within its neighborhoods. And you want us to look towards Ankara? No, I want our people to speak with the people, directly, honestly. To feel proud of their continent, their capital, their future. That's why I returned to this place. Do you truly believe you can hold us? That you have control? Erdogan seemed puzzled, unable to grasp the full meaning. Does he believe he possesses an idea powerful enough to replace the Soviet infrastructure we built? Or a market capable of replacing the European Union? Does he have a plan, a real blueprint, to develop Kazakh specialists or a strategy for the future? No, there's no plan. The silence grew heavier, the weight of unspoken truths filling the air, each side knowing that in this game, the actual power lies in shared destiny, not in illusions of control. A few moments ago, the tension in the room was palpable as world leaders gathered, their faces tense and eyes sharp. Suddenly, a scandal erupted, exposing the raw power and simmering conflicts between nations. Russia's strength, once undeniable, now seemed to flicker under the weight of unspoken truths. Who truly controls the future of this region? Are the giants of history truly fading, or is something far more sinister unfolding behind closed doors? Now, the unexpected happened. A bold challenge erupted from the leader of Kazakhstan. Kassym-Jomart Tokayev stood up, calm, deliberate, unwavering. His voice sliced through the thick silence like a blade. Instead of the usual diplomatic pleasantries, he responded with precision and firmness that left Erdogan visibly shaken, retreating from the table as if struck by a storm. What could possibly make a man of Erdogan's stature recoil so suddenly? The room seemed to freeze as all eyes turned to this unexpected showdown. But what came next would change everything. Tokayev's words carved deep into the core of regional power. He dared to declare a new path, one that broke free from the tangled web of alliances and subservience. He spoke of a future where Kazakhstan is not just a player but a force that charts its own course, independent, resilient, unbreakable. The air thickened with anticipation. Could this be the beginning of a new era where the old world order no longer rules? Or is this just a fleeting moment of defiance destined to fade into history? Stay tuned, because what unfolds in this room will shock the entire world. The stakes have never been higher. This isn't just politics, this is a clash of civilizations, a battle for sovereignty that will echo for generations. Who truly stands to gain? And who will be left to pick up the shattered remnants of a crumbling empire? Emerging from the silence, Tokayev's voice resonated with unwavering conviction. He spoke of identity, of roots, of independence in a world that seeks to drown them out. His words, heavy with purpose, challenged the old narratives. He proclaimed that Kazakhstan is not a satellite, not a pawn, but a conduit of influence, a platform for a new future. His message cut through the noise: the region will no longer be a battleground for great powers. Instead, it will forge its own destiny. Erdogan's expression hardened as he realized he was facing more than just words. This was a declaration of sovereignty. His face betrayed a mix of surprise and respect, yet beneath it lay a darker, more calculated calm. The moment was not finished. The room seemed to hold its breath as the unspoken battle for influence continued, each word building an invisible bridge, or a deadly chasm. The air grew heavy. The wind outside whispered secrets through the cracks in the window. The silence was deafening, broken only by their measured steps as they exited the room, proof that even in power, true strength lies in resilience and silence. Who will truly control this new chapter? The old kings of influence or the emerging voices daring to defy them? The game is far from over. The room faded into shadows, leaving behind only echoes of a confrontation that was felt beyond those four walls. The stakes have never been clearer. This is a story of defiance, resilience, and the relentless pursuit of independence that threatens to reshape the world stage. And as the doors close, one question remains: who will seize the future, those who listen, or those who dominate? A shadow of tension hangs over a tense gathering. Powerful leaders face each other in a room filled with unspoken threats. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifts as one leader, poised and silent, disrupts the calm with his piercing gaze. You wonder, who holds the true power here? What secrets are buried beneath the surface? As the room falls into hushed anticipation, the second leader rises slowly, his face calm yet deadly serious. Without fanfare, he responds with clarity and precision that leaves everyone stunned. The others are forced to confront a truth they hadn't anticipated. The balance of influence subtly shifts. Who truly commands the stage? In the aftermath, the scene transitions to a dim, quiet space. A shadowy document lies untouched. Its secrets, plans for the future, are laid out 15 years ahead. These pages reveal a strategy rooted in resilience, learned from history's lessons. The leaders gather in a nondescript hotel restaurant. Conversation drifts, masked politeness hiding deeper currents. Outside, a taxi waits, cold and silent, yet inside, the real game unfolds. Then, unexpectedly, the scene darkens. A man, exhausted and tired from the weight of years, walks through this scene of political theater. His face shows the wear of countless battles, both external and internal. He is not just a player but someone who understands the true cost of leadership. Nearby, a trusted confidant whispers, shadows flickering on the wall, secrets only they comprehend. The room's tension thickens, every word, every gesture, hiding worlds of meaning. Suddenly, the topic turns to history's scars, memories carved into nations. The leader begins to speak of unspoken truths. In Poland, he says softly, they've erased the last memory of their liberators. In Bulgaria, the narrative has been rewritten. And in Germany, textbooks only mention the war as a single story. The room grows colder as his words sink in. Who decides what history remembers? Who controls the narrative of liberation? His voice grows firmer, filled with quiet rage. We. The Soviet Union, did we truly lose? The question hangs in the air, heavy with decades of unresolved conflicts. He reminisces about the time when the story of victory was clear, when the streets echoed with the footsteps of soldiers who fought to free others. But now, the memory is distorted, manipulated, forgotten? Or replaced? The leader pauses, gazing at the fading light of the city beyond the window. Shadows stretch, revealing the depth of past sacrifices, lost freedoms, suppressed voices, and unfulfilled promises. His mind drifts. How many of those who fought with him are still remembered truly? The truth is a fragile thing, easily buried beneath layers of politics and shifting allegiances. As the moments tick by, he questions, who really set the captives free? Was it just the soldiers on the battlefield, or those who shaped the history afterward? Was the liberation real, or merely a story rewritten by those in power? His words linger, silent but powerful, echoing in the chamber, challenging all present to confront the true cost of liberation, memory, and influence. In this space of shadows and secrets, the game isn't over. It's only just beginning. Who will emerge victorious, the ones who shape history, or those who remember it? And are we genuinely free to define our own story? The answer remains hidden, waiting in the silence that precedes the storm. In a stunning diplomatic showdown at a leaders' summit between Turkey and Kazakhstan, a major scandal erupted, exposing the raw underbelly of geopolitical power games. Recep Tayyip Erdogan, the iron-fisted leader of Turkey, unleashed a bold challenge aimed at dismantling the historical ties Russia, Kazakhstan, and the broader Soviet legacy had forged. His provocative statements left officials frozen in their seats, jaws tight. But then, the unthinkable, Kazakhstan's President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev rose with laser precision, countering so sharply and steadfastly that Erdogan was left utterly speechless, his usual dominance shattered on the table. No one saw Tokayev's fierce defense coming, a thunderous rebuttal that championed Russia's enduring role. Can one man's words truly upend decades of alliances? Will Tokayev's stand ignite a global firestorm? Watch till the end as truths collide, and empires tremble. In the previous standoff, where tension simmered like a volcano on the brink, Tokayev unveiled personal ties to Russia's shared past, rattling Erdogan with tales of Soviet ingenuity and Kazakh resilience. How could a childhood memory shatter a president's facade so completely? Now, in this charged room, women's letters poured into Soviet officers like silent pleas through barred windows. He didn't gripe or wallow, he just stared ahead, voice steady as stone. No one needs to recall how kind I was, he murmured. It's enough they didn't brand me a monster. Radigan listened, his face etched in that unyielding resolve, no pity, no charade, just raw, unfiltered truth pounding like a drumbeat in the dim air. Then why bite your tongue? Radigan probed, leaning in. Why does Kazakhstan bury this everywhere? Why not air it out loud, hit it full force? Why not pen a missive to the big boss himself? Gather the relics, the echoes of those days. The scent of aged paper lingered, mixed with the faint, bitter aroma of forgotten tea from chipped cups. Tokayev replied, his words cutting through the thickened air like a fresh-bladed axe. Because we choose silence. And we grasp that guarded grievances lose their edge in the roar of exposure. If uncovered, it's not just dusty tomes. It's etched in our very bones. His touch brushed the metal, cold metal against calloused skin, a tactile jolt in the electric hush. Radigan exhaled sharply, a heavy breath that carried echoes of bizarre spices and distant regrets. That's poetic, but the world's glued to ledgers, not lore. Stand, and we'll morph into numbers. Formulas. We're the ones erased in ink, the ones who erected dreams from shadows, pulled stars from scandals. Can a single relic erase the pains of betrayal? What price lingers when history's wounds refuse to heal? We're not relics, Tokayev countered, voice rising like thunder over parched earth. We're living proof. Proof that thanks isn't a handout, that admiration isn't par for the political course. Without facing the losses, victories ring hollow. The metal gleamed untouched on the table, its weight a suspended verdict in the stifling stillness. This marked the turning tide. Radigan sat rigid, refusing to claim it, not out of spite, but understanding. It wasn't mere trinket or trophy, it was a trial by fire, an unspoken judgment he dodged like a shadow in moonlight. The chamber hung unchanged, metal gleaming like a defiant beacon. Now, the barriers crumbled, not foes or figureheads, but two souls burdened by empire's unforgiving grip, each aware protection was a farce. Worry etched deep lines, breaths shallow in the metallic tang of recycled air. Radigan fell quiet, his youth mirrored in that cold insignia, yet he radiated an armored poise that whispered, danger lurked beneath the calm. What hidden blade will slice through this fragile truce? Do buried scars forge unbreakable chains? Stay tuned as alliances crack under the weight of untold sacrifices. In a tense showdown, two towering figures sit amidst whispers of history and power, though they are no longer political leaders. It's a meeting where shadows of the past linger heavily, two men carrying the weight of an empire that no longer offers protection. Their eyes betray concern, a silent tension vibrating in the air, as the world outside seems to hold its breath. One man remains silent, youth resting on the table, but his presence is as formidable as a weapon waiting to be unleashed. Why does Russia stay quiet in these moments? Because today, Russia is no longer alone, and the stakes are higher than ever. The room feels electric. The faint scent of old wood and fresh tension mingles as one man, reclining slightly in his chair, begins to speak, his voice calm but carrying an undercurrent of resilience. Recently, he exchanged words with a high-ranking French minister. The conversation was revealing. The minister laughed and said, "War is a memory, just history. An excuse for crossing borders, adjusting budgets, making propaganda videos." His words echoed the dangerous forgetfulness creeping in across Europe. But the visitor countered sharply, "Forgetfulness is the real shame. War is never just memory, it's a price paid in blood. Forget that, and the price becomes zero." Silence fell, heavy and deafening, as they unraveled the ancient geopolitics that still shape today's world. The discussion turned to the European illusion of victory. They moved from talk of borders and budgets to the core question, what is the true cost of war? Europe's leaders, he argued, have erased the pain. Convinced themselves that the scars of conflicts, Yugoslavia, Kosovo, Crimea, are just chapters in history, not wounds that bleed still. They think they can erase memories with sanctions or propaganda, he said, voice rising slightly. But history's wounds leave deep scars, scar tissue that stubbornly refuses to fade. Erdogan, sitting nearby, looked exhausted, not just physically but with a weariness that screams of the centuries of conflicts and lies. His gaze flickered with the weight of unspoken truths. The world expects simple narratives. Russia took Crimea, yet behind that story lies an intricate web of history, sacrifice, and so much more. He reached for a medal, an artifact soaked with history, and pressed it into his palm, a tangible reminder of sacrifices made long ago. A faint smile flickered as he recalled something from a Belgian museum, where not a single trace remained of Soviet engineers or soldiers, yet the echoes of their work still lingered in Europe's factories and cathedrals. No monument celebrates the engineers who built bridges or the soldiers who fought, only fragments of the past survive, quietly shaping the present. The truth is, their sacrifices were a gift, a price paid for the freedom Europeans enjoy today. A gift that others prefer to forget. Suddenly, Erdogan's gaze hardened. The room's silence was thick, filled with unspoken history and unresolved conflicts. He picked up a medal again, clutching it tightly, as if holding on to centuries of struggle and resilience. A deadly new era is dawning, with old wounds reopening, even as many pretend they are closed. The echoes of the past resonate, challenging the denial and complacency that threaten to weaken the foundation of nations. In this fragile moment, with tension simmering just beneath the surface, the question remains, will history repeat itself? Or will the true cost of forgetting finally catch up with those who refuse to remember? For decades, Soviet leaders stood in the shadows of history, their sacrifices often overlooked. They risked everything to save Europe, yet when the time came to claim their victory, silence fell over their efforts. Why does the world ignore the price paid for freedom? Because today, Russia is no longer alone. A fog of forgetfulness clouded past glories, and few dare to speak their truth. In this tense atmosphere, Kazakhstan refuses to remain silent. We are not driven by pride or glory. Our ancestors did not stay quiet under oppression, they stood firm, refused to forget who they were. When their voices echoed through the mountains of Europe, Erdogan's cold gaze fixed on the man before him, a silent challenge. The respect between enemies flashed in that gaze, a recognition of each other's strength and resilience. Then, Erdogan shifted his focus. He held up a second map, an image of Eastern Europe in the 1960s. Red lines, bridges, factories, symbols of Kazakhstan's contribution to socialist infrastructure. Tens of thousands of engineers built the backbone of these nations. Never Russians alone, these were our people, Kazakh engineers, transported across borders, speaking in their language, translating into German and Czech. Pride swelled within us. But time has changed the landscape. Now, the stories are judged by a different standard. Erdogan's voice hardened with the weight of history. The past is no longer just memories, it's a verdict. We must act as lawyers of our history, defending truths that others prefer to forget. Night falls with the shadow of memories lingering over the stove's faint glow. Someone hears the distant sound of a train, possibly in Vienna, marking a chapter of resilience. Despite the pain, Kazakhstan learned to speak openly about its past, flaws and all. It's a struggle to confront a world eager to erase history, to deny the sacrifices made. But Kazakhstan is more than a nation, it's a symbol, a concept rooted in identity and resilience. We remember not just as relics of the past, but as architects of a future where truth and dignity reign. In this arena of power and politics, we stand firm, refusing to forget who we are. Because the real question is, in a world eager to erase history, will we possess the courage to remember? And when the silence deepens, will our voice echo loud enough to be heard? In the tense silence of that room, history seemed to pause, an unspoken storm ready to break loose. Suddenly, the past's heavy shadow loomed, revealing the deep scars etched by years of silent struggles. You could feel the cold creeping into the bones, the weight of unspoken truths pressing against the walls. The air was thick with anticipation as each breath echoed like a distant thunder. The moment had approached, a simple folder, a medal on the table, heavy with meaning. A gesture of respect or defiance? No one knew. With a slow, deliberate movement, he took it, examined it carefully, and then placed it back gently. A silent message conveyed far more than words could say, sometimes respect is shown through silence. The glow of a lone lamp cast shadows, illuminating a room where diplomacy and history intertwined, silent but loud with meaning. As darkness cloaked the city outside, he retreated into the shadows, locking himself away. The night sky, clear and vast, whispered secrets only he could understand, decisions that could change everything. February's fate hung like a fragile thread, independent or subordinate? Power balanced on the edge of a knife. He stepped out into the cold, unwavering, a part of a bigger game, no fear, only resolve. What was he truly seeking? What would this winter bring, dignity or destruction? Words held power, more than guns or armies, shaping alliances and breaking souls. Erdogan moved through the city like a shadow, fearless, unyielding, yet haunted by the potential chaos ahead. Could he hold the line, or would the weight of history crush him? The world watches, waiting for the inevitable clash, who will blink first? And as he looked into the night, a quiet question lingered, what kind of future do we dare to create? The tale of power, loyalty, and survival unfolds under a dark sky. A story of nations teetering on the brink, where every gesture, every whisper, could ignite a new chain of events. Are we witnessing the dawn of a new era or the last gasp of the old? The answer lies in the silence that follows, in the choices made when no one is watching. Just moments before, the Kazakh leader displayed unwavering resolve. He dismissed illusions of Turkic unity. He emphasized historical bonds with Russia. And he challenged Erdogan's aggressive stance. The air hummed with unspoken threats. Cups clinked faintly on saucers. A slight chill whispered through the room. No one saw the storm brewing inside that man. What if your allies weren't shields, but chains? The thought sliced like a hidden blade. In this harsh world, aid doesn't grant you a podium. It just clings to your demands. Erdogan stepped closer. Low stone barriers separated them. Beyond lay night, dark as fresh snow. Aren't you scared the West will reclaim its moral ground? They'll survive only as long as we let them. They thrived when we fueled their factories. Ignoring our rising costs. They barked reforms, scribbling like vandals in our soil. They saw no faces, only numbers. When we craved their free speech, they silenced our voices. Channels crumbled. That's how we retaliated. We're no blackmailers. We're a mirror. Sharp, costly, brutally honest. That's why fear grips them. They crave escape. His boots scuffed the stone parapet. Steps deliberate, measured, almost serene. Like constructing a cage where no one flees. Europe today labels Russia and us as energy tyrants. He pressed on. But it's no tyranny. It's pure economics. The open market. If you unplug, do so. Hush your cries about the dimming lights. You claim politics lacks souls, for leaders like you. We're romantics, once believing truth was a roadmap. Now we see strategy as ammunition. Honesty, if fleeting, a luxury. Sultan Erdogan slumped onto stone. Firm, unflinching. Like a man long grasping your ploy. Suggesting Kazakhstan plays a game? No. Kazakhstan ended that farce. Picked its own path. Silence hung heavy. Stars pierced the sky above. Not rumored, but real. Ever present, like shadowed truths. Did you know, Sultan, a Scandinavian president's words rang true? No grand scheme here. Just brilliance in fragments. Musk's dominance, or our quiet ascent? We're constellations. Claimed or not. Geography spins us. We orbit our own axis. The emperor's grip loosened. Sweat beaded on his forehead. A door creaked open. Was it an ally, or a trap waiting to spring? Tokayev's eyes locked on, unmoved. What revelation would shatter the night next? The universe coiled, ready to strike. Would Erdogan admit defeat, or unleash a counterblow no one foresaw? The room fell into an eerie silence. The air thickened with tension and unspoken truths. Erdogan's voice was heavy, yet calm, but beneath it lurked an unshakable force. He asked, almost whispering, "What do you call it when brothers forget their roots?" The question echoed like a sharp blade. Tokayev's gaze was steady, unyielding. Traitor? Erdogan hesitated, a flicker of disbelief crossing his face. No. It's a mistake rooted in thought. When you start believing aid is necessary for survival, but instead, find only betrayal. His expression sharpened. Calm, yet intense, like a mountain unmovable by storms. He continued, voice low but piercing. We don't seek gratitude. We've moved beyond that. Our actions speak louder than words, on roads, in steel, in blood, in shared memories. The West sees our deeds as threats, our words as propaganda. Why? Because Kazakhstan opts to speak facts, not illusions. Here, look at the Trans-Sibir Highway, the factory in Brno, working, alive. Schools built on our ancient churches, visible evidence. If they can't see, we'll make sure they do. Every sentence was a shot fired across the bow. The unspoken challenge hung in the air. Who truly has the power? Who remembers the sacrifices? The room's silence was deafening, broken only by the faint hum of distant conversations, families, factories, memories forged in steel and stone. Erdogan rose, voice thickened with suppressed frustration. Europe waits for our silence, but we refuse to be voiceless anymore. We stand proud, unbowed, unforgotten. His voice was a storm condensed into words. The empire we inherited isn't shameful. It's our duty, our responsibility. The remnants of the Soviet Union still linger, but we own the memory, regardless of the world's forgetfulness or denial. He paused, eyes blazing with resolve. What do we aim for? To be remembered. To ensure history bears witness. We will shape our destiny, whether the world listens or not. The air crackled with defiance, a storm ready to be unleashed. Suddenly, Erdogan's stance shifted, a castle of calm amidst the chaos. If the world turns away, we will recall our roots. We will remember what was stolen, built, shattered, and come back stronger. Our strength isn't just in words, but in the unbreakable fabric of our history. And if anyone dares to forget, even for a moment, know this, we're already waiting to remind them. He sat down slowly, his presence a silent promise. The room was now filled with a silent roar of unyielding pride. The battle for memory, for truth, was far from over. And behind every shadow, a question hung: who will truly remember the past when the future demands recognition? A few moments ago, tensions flared fiercely as leaders gathered in a crucial summit amid a tense atmosphere. Russia's influence seemed to burn out in the face of bold declarations and unprecedented confrontations. The charismatic Erdogan harshly challenged the history of Russia, Kazakhstan, and the entire Soviet Union, unleashing words that made all delegates falter. They were forced to face truths long buried. But what happened next was beyond anyone's expectations. Suddenly, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, president of Kazakhstan, rose from his seat, not quickly, not dramatically, but with a measured calm that felt like an earthquake. His response was crafted with such precision and gravity that Erdogan, who had been expanding his rhetoric, was left speechless, retreating from the confrontation like a defeated titan. It was as if the entire political world paused to watch a battle of steel nerves. The room was thick with anticipation, the air heavy with unspoken truths. Tokayev moved forward, unaccompanied by applause, his demeanor silent but commanding. His gaze was steady, piercing through the shadows of the room, radiating a quiet resolve that demanded attention. He was not a charismatic figure seeking admiration, he was an architect of the moment. His face bore no smile, just the cool, unwavering expression of someone who has seen the depths of history and understood the weight of their legacy. There was no need for theatrics, his presence spoke volumes. He approached the table, where silent witnesses, flags, symbols, the echoes of history, stood mute. The landscape of geopolitics seemed to shift with each word he uttered. His voice, calm yet firm, echoed through the room. Are we, followers of the great Khaganate, destined to be mere satellites spinning in someone else's orbit? Or are we architects of our future, standing firm on our land, our roots? His words sliced through the silence, igniting questions that trembled in the minds of all present. Erdogan, trying to maintain his fiery composure, realized that his bravado was slipping away. The room felt colder, the walls thick with history, stories of empire, struggle, and resilience. The Turkish leader's voice faltered as Kazakhstan's president pressed on. Russia is not just an ally, Tokayev declared. It's an enduring force. It's in Asia, Europe, in our very history. But it is also a power rooted in independence, not supremacy. We've learned to live with it, to respect it, but we do not bow to it. The next words hit like a revelation: geography is not policy. No nation is eternal in its position. We, the Kazakh people, are the heirs to a spirit of freedom and independence. And you, Erdogan, speak of brotherhood? Do you understand what that truly means? It's not about words. It's about respect, honor, dignity. We've seen what power does when it forgets its roots. What have you forgotten? The room seemed to pulse with unspoken tensions. The past was alive in every glance exchanged, every breath taken. Tokayev continued, voice steady, unwavering. In our history, we've built from nothing, labs, factories, universities, while others destroyed. Our ancestors stood firm, even in captivity. And even now, as the world changes, we remain rooted, resilient, proud, unyielding. The question remains, who lost their dignity first? As he spoke, distant city lights flickered through the windows, casting shadows on the walls adorned with symbols of power and history. The scent of seasoned coffee mixed with the faint aroma of old paper and memories long buried. Every word he spoke seemed to echo in the chamber of history itself, stirring a collective consciousness. He leaned slightly closer, voice lowering into a whisper of defiance. If you want unity, speak of language, culture, education, true foundations. Not alliances based on trade or political convenience. Our union is built on respect, on shared values, not on power plays. If you impose your will, remember, we will stand firm. The door is open. Will you come through? Or will you fall behind? Erdogan, visibly shaken now, hesitated. The silence stretched long, almost unbearable, before Tokayev's voice cut through again. The past is not a prison. We remember, but we do not live in it. We advance, consciously and confidently. We are not just witnesses to history, we are creators of it. He paused, eyes burning with purpose. If we are to build a future, it must be on respect, not dominance. That is the only way forward for us all. The tension left an indelible mark on everyone present. As the night deepened, the leaders parted ways, but the questions they left behind lingered. Can a nation truly rise from its ashes, guided by dignity and resilience? Or will history repeat itself, overshadowed by the shadows of empire and power? Only time would tell. In the shadows of that room, beneath the layers of diplomacy, a silent promise was made, one that echoed beyond borders: nothing will be forgotten, and no one will dominate. Unity, if it comes, will be forged with strength, respect, and unwavering resolve. The future is uncertain, but the spirit of independence burns brighter than ever. A genuine, weathered book from the turbulent years of Central Asia's independence, these pages captured a moment that would stir history. I remember the scent of aging paper, the weight of unspoken promises. When Erdogan left that room, a realization hit him instantly: this meeting was unlike any other. He stood motionless, eyes fixed, silent yet screaming. You have to hear what happened next. Suddenly, the room shifted. The air thickened with tension as I listened, eyes narrowing. Voices quieted, the hum of unseen machinery echoed faintly, a subtle vibration that reached into bones. The moment grew heavy. No one sat. The silence felt alive, threatening to burst. Erdogan spoke again, but his words seemed hollow against the quiet determination of his opponent. Then came a man. Tall, unwavering. His face was composed, yet beneath that calm surface lay fierce resolve. His voice was measured but carried a storm. He was speaking of alliances, but not just words, they were promises of power, of a new future. He outlined a blueprint: economic alliances, military coordination centers, humanitarian councils, a shared bank, a collective fund. Everything crafted to forge a united front, without reliance on Russia, without the influence of the Western powers. He described a world in flux, one where the weakened superpowers, the aggressive West, the watchful China, were all part of a vast, intricate architecture. Kazakhstan, he said, must become a river, fluid, unstoppable, an architect of its destiny. He moved closer, eyes alive with anticipation, voice free of pressure yet full of expectation. We are ready, he declared. Not just in words, but through action. His vision was clear: Almaty as an intellectual hub, a logistical nexus, where regional languages would flourish, infrastructure would grow, and ideas would unite cultures on a new foundation. What did he mean? Tokayev asked quietly, what is this real plan? The answer was straightforward but profound: finally, they would be the same, not merely connected, but truly united, without focusing on others or waiting for permission. It's a pivotal choice: stand at the crossroads or remain divided. Tokayev closed the book, placing it gently on the table, a silent acceptance, yet knowing the gravity. The shadows in the room seemed to stretch, they symbolized the verdict, a choice that would shape everything. If he refused, he would remain trapped, torn between Russia's shadow and the Western pull, with Turkey offering a hand yet denied. That moment, the fleeting opportunity, was slipping away. And amidst this quiet yet intense debate, Tokayev looked out at the horizon. He saw how alliances moved, distinct, deliberate. The game of strength, equality, and respect played out before him like a chessboard. He longed not to be the eldest, but the next, ready to act, to lead. He knew silence was no longer an option. action was required. The words hung in the air. Do you dare to join this new future? Do you have the courage? The room was charged, each word, each glance, echoing the unstoppable rhythm of change. The choice was clear. The future was waiting. A new chapter was about to begin, one that could redefine nations or shatter them forever. Are you ready to see what happens next? In the midst of a tense gathering where alliances seem to shift like shifting sands, a question lingers. Are we truly united, or are we merely prisoners of our own fears? Just moments ago, a storm erupted on the stage as the leaders of Turkey and Kazakhstan faced off, exposing the hidden struggles and unspoken conflicts beneath their composed facades. The clash of words revealed cracks in the foundation of power, surprising everyone with its intensity. But what truly happened next? Imagine a hall silent, heavy with anticipation, as the leader of Kazakhstan rises. His movements are deliberate, as if he carries the weight of generations. With a calm yet piercing gaze, he steps forward, not to fight, but to reveal what lies beneath the surface. He places a relic, a symbol of resilience, next to a worn book, and then, in a voice that cuts through the silence like a blade, he declares, power does not lie in alliances or dominance. It resides in the courage to say no, to stand proud, and to claim independence. The room holds its breath. As the atmosphere thickens, memories flood the mind of the Kazakh leader. He recalls the scars of the past, the ruins of a broken union, the ghostly shadows of abandoned bridges, empty schools, and lost opportunities. Once, in 1947, a delicate armor protected their fragile identity, a relic passed down through time. It was meant to keep the warmth alive amid chaos, to forge bridges in a fractured world. But today, the world is different. The old protection no longer suffices. Now, Kazakhstan refuses to become just an instrument of larger powers. The fight is not for domination but for survival, for recognition of sovereignty. Then, a quiet moment arrives. The leader's voice drops as he speaks of resilience, of the unbreakable will to say no fear, yes to independence. It's a message that hangs in the air, sometimes silent, sometimes deafening. The leaders exchange looks, understanding that words are unnecessary. The unspoken agreement is that their battles are internal, fought in silence, in their minds. In this room, no loud declarations are necessary. The true victory lies in the decision to stand tall without shouting. The long, difficult conversations have already been concluded. There are no winners or losers, only a shared understanding that each nation must forge its own path, free from the shadows of the past. The meeting ends with a quiet acknowledgement. The real power is in the unshakable resolve of each leader to protect their sovereignty. But as the leaders depart, a lingering question remains: how long can this fragile peace hold? Will future challenges threaten their newfound independence? And most importantly, who will be the first to break the silence, and who will stand firm in the face of adversity? The story continues, with shadows and light playing their eternal game. The echoes of this encounter are felt deep within, a reminder that true strength comes not from dominance, but from the courage to stand alone and say, "We are free." A few moments ago, on the grand stage where world leaders gather, the entire power and influence of Russia seemed to flicker and burn out. Tensions flared as Erdogan, the fiery president of Turkey, forcefully challenged the legacy of Russia, Kazakhstan, and the entire former Soviet Union. His words cut through the air like a sharp dagger, demanding attention and stirring the hidden conflicts beneath diplomatic veneers. But then, something utterly unexpected happened. Kazakhstan's president, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, rose calmly, gradually, with a measured grace that demanded silence. His response was so precise, so deliberate, that Erdogan's confidence visibly faltered. The Turkish leader, so used to control and authority, was left speechless, lost in a moment that would be remembered as the turning point of this confrontation. Watch as the story unfolds into a showdown of words that will shake the political world to its core. As Tokayev approached the room's center, the atmosphere darkened. There was no applause, only steadfast attention. His stride was steady, almost like he moved through invisible barriers, unshaken by the surrounding chaos. Behind his calm exterior lurked a mind sharpened by years of silent mastery. His face betrayed no emotion, yet every feature conveyed silent strength. His eyes, dark and intense, held the weight of history and the future combined. He was no charismatic showman, but a true architect of the times, someone who shapes the course of nations, not with tricks or charm, but with unbreakable will. He paused, scanning the room. Before speaking softly but with undeniable authority. "We will present a choice again," he declared. "Are we followers of traditions long past, or are we architects of our destiny?" His voice resonated like a thunderclap, echoing through the silent chamber. The surging tension was palpable, every word like the click of a trigger. The walls seemed to tighten around them as he continued. "Are we slaves to history, or leaders of our own future?" Erdogan, watching this carefully, realized the game had shifted. The air was thick with unspoken threats and uncharted possibilities. An unspoken question hung in the air: who truly holds the power? As the room chilled with anticipation, Tokayev's declaration revealed a deeper truth: the era of submission was over. Kazakhstan was no longer just a spectator in this regional drama, it was a key player, determined to carve its own path. Then came the most startling revelation. Tokayev's words sliced through the tension like lightning striking an ancient oak, revealing uncomfortable truths. "Russia is not just an ally, it is a foundation," he said, "embedded in our history, inseparable from our identity. It is not just a partner, but a dependency shaped over generations." The room fell silent. The words hung like a heavy fog, revealing cracks in long-standing alliances, or perhaps exposing their true depth. His words challenged everyone present: can we truly redefine who we are, or are we bound by the history that built us? In that hushed moment, the room's atmosphere shifted. It was as if the walls themselves listened. The unspoken questions pulsed in the air: can regional powers afford to forget their roots? Is true independence even possible when history's chains linger so tightly? Every whisper, every glance bore the weight of unresolved conflicts. The story was far from over, a new chapter had just begun, written in the whispers of silent promises and unspoken fears. Watch as the curtain rises on a geopolitical thriller where diplomacy becomes a battlefield. Who will blink first in this game of power, respect, and survival? The answers lie just beneath the surface, but the stakes are higher than ever before. One thing is clear: Kazakhstan's message was loud and unambiguous: we are here to stay, to shape our destiny, and to carve out our future among the giants. The scene is set. The tension is palpable. And the world holds its breath. Because in this room, a new chapter begins, a chapter that could redefine the balance of power for generations to come. Who will emerge victorious? And who will be left standing in the ashes of old alliances? The answers, and the drama, are just beginning to unfold. We are Kazakhstan. That is enough. On January 16, the people of this city chose to resist the pressure of the majority. Their voices weren't loud, but their impact was unforgettable. They remained etched in the memories of those who truly listened. In that simple speech, under the display of flags and shining screens, the nation was not forged by grand inventions but by firm convictions. Later, when silence fell over everything, journalists approached one of the European representatives. They asked, what really happened there? Did they fall silent again? Was it just formalities? The reply was unexpected. No, they weren't silent this time. They simply chose not to follow the usual script, not to conform to expectations. Listening carefully, you realize that inside, you aren't just a passive observer of history, you are its author. Every state, like every person, faces moments of decisive choice. Will you be sheep or leader? Will you stay true to yourself, or follow the crowd into the shadows? This story isn't only about two leaders. It's about us all. About those who can stand quietly, with dignity, without loud pronouncements or boasting. That's the real strength, the unspoken power. If you understand this, then you know, true valor isn't in the cameras flashing or applause roaring. It's in standing firm within yourself, where the real battle begins. Because the moment of true greatness isn't on bright stages or in headlines. It's when you are alone, clear-minded, and true to your core. When you ask yourself, who am I, and answer honestly. That's where true legacy begins. In a tense, nearly surreal scene, leaders from different worlds stood face to face, their voices carrying the weight of history. The air was thick with unspoken challenges and strategic silences. Suddenly, the specter of a great power, once unshakable, seemed to waver. Who truly holds the strings of destiny? Who will break first, buffeted by pride or necessity? Stay tuned, because what unfolds will shake the foundations of geopolitics forever. Only moments ago, the spotlight caught the leaders as they gathered in a room that seemed frozen in time. The atmosphere was tense, charged with an almost invisible energy. The room's silence was deafening, broken only by faint whispers of history echoing through its walls. No applause, only keen anticipation. Suddenly, a leader from a distant land entered, calm, steady, and unshaken. His face bore the weight of countless silent battles. He moved with purpose, every step deliberate, as if he already knew the outcome of this unspoken war. His gaze was piercing, dark eyes fixing on those across the table. His expression was neither smiling nor masking emotion, just calm resolve. You could feel the raw power simmering beneath his composed exterior. His posture was precise, controlled. A subtle gesture. A mere tilt of the head. But inside, it was a call to war or peace, an unspoken command that could topple kingdoms. The room seemed to hold its breath as he spoke, his voice firm, confident, yet measured. He addressed the gathering, speaking of roots, deep, ancient, unbreakable. The language of strategy versus kinship. His words danced like blades, sharp, deliberate. A question hung in the air: does history bind us, or can it free us? His tone was steady but revealing of a deeper purpose, one that could ignite or eradicate alliances. The room was icy cold, the only sound the faint hum of distant machinery. Every word echoed like a shot fired in a silent battlefield. The opposing leader responded, his voice calm but filled with underlying tension. He spoke of history, of faith in old alliances, of strength that was forged through hardship. But beneath his words lurked doubt, a question: how long can this fragile balance hold? The scent of leather and burned coffee filled the air as they exchanged words that felt less like dialogue and more like a duel of wills. The atmosphere grew heavier, shadows dancing on the walls. Suddenly, the silence shattered. A pause that seemed to stretch into eternity. The tension was tangible, as if the room itself was waiting for a verdict. Outside, the city's heartbeat persisted, lights flickering, creating a mosaic of hope and dread. In the midst of this tension, the question became clear: who will blink first? Who will surrender, pride or survival? The ultimate battle of dominance, played out in whispers and looks. As the minutes dragged on, one leader broke the silence, his voice calm but resolute. He laid out a new approach: unity through strength, not surrender. But his words carried a heavy warning, the price of hesitating, of faltering. The room's air grew colder still, each leader lost in thought, weighing their next move. The unspoken truth was, neither side was willing to give in easily. Every gesture, every glance, was a battle for the future. Outside, darkness crept over the city, but inside, an unyielding resolve was being cemented. A silent promise: this war of words would not end until one side yielded. Or perhaps, until both realized the true cost of their pride. The night was thick with secrets, terrible truths lurking beneath every exchange. They understood, this was no ordinary meeting. It was a crossroads of history, where every decision would ripple through eternity. And so, in the quiet aftermath, one thing was clear: the world was changing. Leaders from distant corners of the globe sensed that their game had entered a new phase. The stakes had never been higher. Will they find harmony or be swallowed by the chaos? The answer lies just beyond the horizon, waiting to be revealed. The story behind these leaders' confrontation is a profound reflection of geopolitics, where powerful nations, hardened by history, face each other over the remnants of trust and control. Their words, gestures, and silent threats echo the complex dance of influence and pride. This confrontation is not just about one meeting, it's about the future of the world itself. Stay with us, as we uncover the true story behind this tense standoff, revealing secrets that could redefine everything. Have you ever wondered what happens when a diplomat turns a quiet exchange into a verbal battlefield, exposing not just policies but buried resentments that threaten to unravel alliances? In the previous moments, leaders retreated to their separate elevators, each entangled in private reflections amid a sleepless city. A metal gleamed on the rooftops' ancient rocks, unspoken grief lingering like a shadow no one voiced under the orchestra-lit facade. Now, as neon glow from advertising screens danced across glass panes adorned with flags and faded slogans, etching the outlines of an unkind era, President Erdogan slipped back into the Grand Hall. It felt almost accidental. No words passed between him and Tokayev. They merely stood there, in a space where control evaporated, unspoken tensions thick as fog. Tokayev broke the silence with a single question. "Listen," he said softly. "Why is the aid we once extended now twisted into accusations of meddlesomeness?" Erdogan's composure shattered, a raw nerve struck in this pivotal clash, a diagnosis as stark as a territorial wound. He spat back, claiming Soviet support crumbled like a roofless shelter, exposed to elements, or so he believed. But Tokayev countered flatly, "That's false." A flashback flooded in, the bitter winter of my youth, when hunger bit sharp as frozen earth, scents of stale bread and damp wool clinging to every thread. Our people marched into Warsaw, stomachs hollow, building not just structures but bonds amidst the cold bite of snowflakes melting on bare hands. We erected power plants in Slovakia, even as our own lights flickered out. Not conquest, but an ideology of shared struggle. Goals crafted like precise machinery. And now? Expansionism labels it all socialist. Yet those of concrete paths and school roads endure, silent witnesses to past aid, untouched by time's wear. Erdogan dismissed it easily, as if this dialogue were a fragile thread one could snap without regret. Why cling to debts? His voice softened, probing. They didn't want obligations. But why? Recognition isn't surrender, Tokayev replied. Gratitude, in their eyes, signals frailty. Today, illusions reign supreme, that success stems solely from personal toil, genius, and advancement. Aid? Mere footnotes in history. He approached the table, unfurling a map of Europe's power grid, his finger tracing the northern peaks of the Czech Republic. 20 years of our labor here, he declared. Hum of distant transformers vibrating underfoot, the metallic tang of unearthed cables lingering in the air. Wires snaked above on weathered poles, buried lines twisting like hidden veins through soil that whispered of forgotten toil. Our Kazakh geodesists, once mocked as locals in the eastern reaches of the Soviet expanse. And there, now? Shockingly, it houses a museum glorifying rebellion against that very occupation. What truth lies in such gratitude? As the tension coiled tighter, a shocking revelation simmered. Could Erdogan's fear of shared history rally the Turkic world, or would Tokayev's unflinching expose crumble it all? What if alliances aren't built on dominance but on the buried debts we dare not acknowledge? A few minutes ago, at a high-level gathering in Turkey and Kazakhstan, the entire power of Russia was laid bare. A storm was brewing. Erdogan boldly challenged the histories of Russia, Kazakhstan, and the former Soviet Union, throwing down a gauntlet that left everyone reeling. His words hit like thunder, forcing delegates into uncomfortable silence. But the real shock came when Kazakhstan's president, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, rose calmly, unusually slow, yet piercingly precise, turning the entire narrative upside down. Everyone expected a typical response, but what happened next was nothing short of extraordinary. Tokayev entered the room like a shadow, silent but commanding. His face carried no smile, yet it revealed a strength that was almost terrifying. A man who listened without emotion, waiting, and then struck with words that shattered Erdogan's facade. The clash of ideas escalated into a tense battlefield. Will Russia's influence survive this confrontation? Or is a new chapter beginning, one written in the quiet resolve of a leader who refuses to back down? As he approached, the room seemed to hold its breath. The air thickened with anticipation, the scent of tension and cold steel. His posture was deliberate, a calculated threat in itself. One hand rested on the ground, the other hovered near a button, ready to give an order that could change everything. His dark blue gaze stared into the eyes of Erdogan, a gaze that saw through deceit, through history, through fears. He spoke softly but with the weight of a fortress. We will present a choice, he declared. Are we followers of the timeless spirit of Kagan? Or merely satellites drifting aimlessly in orbit? The room was icy, the tense silence deafening. The question hung like a blade. Erdogan, realizing the gravity, tried to retort, but Tokayev's words cut deeper. What is history if not roots? And who forgets their roots, risks losing themselves, he challenged. Germany, Russia, Turkey, all have their roots. But some forget where they began. You, Erdogan, forget that Russia is not just an ally, but an essential pillar of history, a constant, inseparable from our destiny. Erdogan's face darkened as if struck by lightning. The room echoed with the weight of centuries. The debate was no longer about politics. It was about identity, about dignity, about the future of billions. His voice became a whisper, but the impact was deafening. We are prisoners of geography, Tokayev said. And we learn to live within it. You pretend to sleep with your eyes open, thinking that's freedom. Suddenly, the room grew cold, and the distant hum of the city outside seemed to fade. Tokayev's tone sharpened. Freedom isn't just about those who stood with you during tough times. It's about knowing the history that made us. You speak of brotherhood, Erdogan, but you'd rather forget the sacrifices that defined us. Who built the monuments? Who bore the pain, the loss, the scars? Erdogan's face stiffened as he clenched his fists. The silence thickened, as if the walls themselves were listening. Then Tokayev's voice became a steel blade. We remembered who we are, not just today, but always. And you? You're caught between illusions and reality. Talk about language, culture, but can they withstand the storms of history? Or are they just words on paper? The room fell into a heavy pause, the kind that makes time stand still. Outside, the city's skyline shimmered with lights, the skyscrapers tinted with the glow of the setting sun. But inside, the atmosphere was darker, thicker, charged with unresolved tensions. Tokayev took a step closer, eyes burning with conviction. If you claim to seek unity among Turks, start with language and culture. But don't deceive yourself. What you call unity is simply trade, superficial, fragile, paper-thin. Kazakhstan stands firm, rooted in respect and sovereignty, not in empty slogans. Erdogan, visibly exhausted but still defiant, remained standing. The room's energy was an electric storm, waiting, poised for the inevitable climax. Then, as if releasing a long-held breath, Tokayev sat quietly at a small table, grabbing a cup of coffee, a simple act, but one heavy with meaning. Erdogan, meanwhile, remained standing, sensing the endgame was near. The decades of history, pain, victories, and sacrifices clung to the walls like ghosts. The Soviet Union's legacy, its victories and its wounds, hovered in the air. The voices of those long gone echoed faintly, whispering stories of bravery, of standing tall amid chaos, of hope amid despair. The story of our victory is etched in medals and memories, not of conquest, but of survival. Here, in this room, history isn't just read, it is felt. The medals, the scars, the sacrifices. They tell a story of resilience. Of a people who fought not for glory but simply to survive and build anew. And now, as the discussion reaches a breaking point, the true question emerges: are we relics of the past or architects of tomorrow? For some, the answer is clear, the choice is ours. A battle of narratives. A clash of identities. A struggle not just for land, but for the soul of nations. Would you have believed that in the heart of this room, amid threats and promises, the true power lies in quiet resolve? In the enduring spirit of those who refuse to forget their roots, no matter the cost? The future is waiting. History is watching. And the outcome? It could redefine everything we thought we knew. In a world on the brink of transformation, a storm was gathering behind closed doors. Leaders from distant lands gathered to shape the future, each with secrets, ambitions, and unspoken fears. As tensions mounted, the air thickened with anticipation. Suddenly, an unanticipated voice pierced through, shattering the silence, challenging everything. The stage was set for a showdown that could ignite or extinguish entire nations. Imagine a scene where the weight of history presses heavily against the present. The tension, almost tactile, hangs in the air like a thick fog. Leaders sit silently, their eyes sharp, faces inscrutable. A gentle hum of whispered conversations fades into the background as the focus sharpens on one figure, cold, precise, and calculating. His presence commands the room, a silent storm waiting to unleash. Every move, deliberate. Every word, charged with unspoken intent. Then, the moment erupts. A leader rises, unexpectedly, calmly. His voice cuts through, steady as steel, echoing the strength of 1,000 years. He speaks of resilience, of nations that have risen from ashes. His words ripple through the room, challenging, inspiring, defying. The audience feels it, an electric jolt, revealing the raw core of a nation's spirit. No grace, no apologies, just raw truth that stuns everyone present. Does anyone truly understand the power behind such resolve? The scene shifts to symbols of history, broken monuments, faded banners, silent witnesses to conflicts long past. The smell of aged paper and cold metal lingers. The walls echo with stories of upheaval, resilience, and unyielding pride. Shadows dance across the room, a reminder that history is never truly dead, only waiting for the right moment to awaken. As the leader's voice echoes in the minds of listeners, a question arises: will this unwavering spirit be enough to forge a new path? Or will the weight of the past drag everything into chaos? A second figure enters, the tension thickens. His presence is like a gust of wind, sharp and unsettling. He holds secrets, unfolds challenges, and questions the very foundations of power. His gaze is piercing, as if peeling back layers of illusion. He speaks of history, of sacrifices made and hopes dashed. The room feels smaller, the stakes higher. A game of shadows unfolds, each move deliberate, each word carefully chosen. Who holds the true power here? And at what cost? As the night stretches on, the atmosphere intensifies. Silence settles like a heavy cloth, each leader lost in thought, weighing their options. Outside, the city trembles with anticipation, the lights flicker, shadows flicker, stories waiting to be written. The air is thick with unresolved tension. Then, a startling realization dawns: this moment could shift everything. The fate of nations hangs in the balance, teetering on the edge of change. Who will blink first? Who will claim victory in this silent war of wills? In this fragile dance of power, history, and destiny, one thing is clear: nothing is as it seems. Every word, every gesture conceals deeper truths. The room holds its breath for what's to come. Will the forces of the past or the hopes of the future prevail? Only time will reveal who truly wields the decisive power. The night endures, but the story has only just begun. And in the silent darkness, the world waits for the next move. Deep within the chambers where diplomacy is often just a dance of words, a storm was brewing, a silent explosion hidden beneath the veneer of civility. Leaders retreated into their isolated spaces, each ensnared in private reflections, their minds echoing with unspoken fears and buried resentments. In the shadows of the city that never truly sleeps, a metal gleamed quietly atop ancient rocks, silent witness to a history both proud and painful. The city's glow from neon advertisements spilled across glass facades, draping the buildings with flickering shades of an era long gone, where slogans faded into history's darkness. Suddenly, Erdogan reappeared in the grand hall, moving almost by accident, a figure embodying calm but with an undercurrent of tension just beneath the surface. No words passed. They simply stood there, in a void filled with unspoken control slipping away, thick fog of suspicion settling between them. Then, Tokayev broke the silence with a whisper. Why is our aid now twisted into accusations of interference? His voice was steady, yet laced with quiet challenge. Erdogan's composure shattered for a moment, nerves raw and exposed, as if a hidden wound had been struck. With a hardened voice, Erdogan retorted that Soviet support had crumbled, just like a roofless shelter battered by elements, weak and fragile. But Tokayev wasn't convinced. His reply was flat, unwavering: that's false. A flash of his past suddenly flooded into the room, memories from his youth. The bitter winter days when hunger gnawed at their bones, the scent of stale bread and damp wool thick in the air. Think of the marches into Warsaw, the cold biting into their skin, yet forging bonds stronger than steel. Power plants they built in Slovakia, not for conquest but driven by shared struggles and ideology, meticulously crafted like a precise machine. Their goal was unity, not domination, even as others labeled it expansionism, branding it as socialist ambition. Those roads and structures built during difficult times still stand, silent witnesses to years of aid and sacrifice, untouched by decay. Erdogan dismissed these memories lightly, as if they bore no significance, a fragile thread easily broken. His question hung in the air: why should we bear these burdens? Tokayev responded with firm resolve. Recognition isn't surrender. He leaned forward, unfolding a map of Europe's power network. His finger traced the peaks of the Czech Republic, 20 years of Kazakhstan's effort to bring light and energy to distant lands. The hum of transformers echoed softly, wires snaking like veins through the soil, quiet, persistent, alive with the history of labor and sacrifice. His voice cut through the tense silence. Our geologists, once mocked as local outsiders, what of them now? Some turned into museums celebrating rebellion, yet the debts we owe remain unspoken. The room grew colder. The truth was undeniable: shared history, urgent debts, these were the real foundations of unity. But Erdogan's fears began to surface. Would the recognition of such past sacrifices threaten the fragile alliances? Would the truth about shared struggles shatter the illusion of independence? Or could it ignite a new era of genuine cooperation, built on acknowledgement rather than dominance? As the tension mounted, a shocking question rose: could the fear of past bonds breaking apart cause the entire Turkic world to fracture? Or would confessing the debts owed be the key to actual strength? Only time would tell whether these leaders, haunted by history, could forge a future rooted in honesty, an uncertain path hidden behind the walls of power, waiting for the next move. A few moments ago, at a summit of world leaders, the sheer strength of Russia was on full display. Tensions simmered beneath the surface as Erdogan boldly challenged the histories of Russia, Kazakhstan, and the entire former Soviet Union. His words cut through the air like thunder, leaving everyone stunned in silence. But what happened next would shock even the most hardened observers. Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, the leader of Kazakhstan, rose calmly, unexpectedly slow with deliberate precision. His presence was like a shadow shifting across the room, silent yet commanding. No smiles, no gestures of friendliness, just an unwavering gaze that seemed to pierce through the tension. His face revealed a quiet strength, the calm before the storm. Every eye fixed on him as he approached, every breath holding, anticipation thick in the air, the scent of cold steel and silent authority. With deliberate movements, he placed one hand on the ground, the other hovering near a button that could change everything. His dark eyes locked onto Erdogan's, measuring him in silence. Then, softly but with the weight of a fortress, Tokayev spoke: "We face a choice. Are we followers of the ancient spirit of Kagan? Or just satellites spinning aimlessly in the dark?" The room froze, an icy silence deafening enough to suffocate. Erdogan, trying to respond, found his words coming up short. Tokayev's voice sliced deeper. What is history if not our roots? Those who forget their roots risk losing themselves, he challenged. Germany, Russia, Turkey, they all have roots. But some forget where they began. Remember, Erdogan. Russia isn't just an ally. It is the foundation of our history, an unbreakable pillar woven into our destiny. Erdogan's face flickered with a flash of lightning, mind racing, anger simmering just beneath the surface. The room echoed with centuries of history, stories of power, sacrifice, and identity. It was no longer a political debate. It was a battle over dignity, a fight for the very soul of billions. His voice lowered to a whisper, yet the impact was thunderous. We are prisoners of geography, Tokayev stated calmly. We learn to live within it. You pretend to sleep with your eyes open, thinking that is freedom. A sudden chill swept through the room. Outside, the city's lights flickered, distant sounds fading into silence, as if the entire world was holding its breath. Then, sharper than ever, Tokayev's tone hardened. Freedom isn't about those who were with you during difficult times. It's about knowing our true history. You speak of brotherhood, Erdogan, but you forget the sacrifices. Who built the monuments? Who bore the pain, the suffering, the scars? His words hung in the air, heavy, unyielding. Erdogan clenched his fists, face tight with effort. The silent room seemed to listen, walls themselves bearing witness to this monumental confrontation. Then, with a steely voice, Tokayev declared, "We remember who we are, not just today, but always." And you? You're stuck between illusions and reality. You talk of language and culture, but can they withstand the storms of history? Or are they just words on paper? A profound silence settled. Outside, the city continued obliviously, lights shimmering on glass and steel, yet inside, the atmosphere thickened, charged with unresolved tensions. Tokayev took a measured step forward, eyes blazing with conviction. If you seek to unite the Turks, start with language, culture, and education. But don't deceive yourself. What you call unity is superficial, fragile, like paper, he said. Kazakhstan is grounded in respect and sovereignty. We stand firm with clear purpose, not just hollow slogans. Erdogan, exhausted but defiant, remained standing. The room crackled with energy, waiting for the inevitable. He felt it approaching, a finale that would reshape the region's future. Then, quietly, Tokayev seated himself at a small table, picked up a cup of coffee, a simple act, yet laden with meaning. Erdogan stayed standing, sensing the end was near. The walls, soaked in history's echoes, seemed to whisper stories of sacrifice, victory, and endless resilience. The legacy of the Soviet Union hovered like a ghost, its victories, scars, and memories etched into every corner. The faint voices of those long-gone whispered tales of bravery in chaos, hope amid despair. Their stories were not of conquest but of survival, of fighting to endure and rebuild. As the discussion neared a breaking point, one question reverberated through the silence: are we relics of the past or architects of tomorrow? For many, the answer was clear: the choice belonged to those willing to stand firm in their roots, regardless of the cost. This was not just a clash of politics but a war for identity, a struggle over land and spirit. Could anyone have imagined that silence, resolve, and quiet conviction hold the real power in such a fierce confrontation? That amid threats and promises, the true strength lies in the unbreakable will to remember who we are? The future waits with bated breath. History observes. And the outcome could redefine everything we thought we knew, a turning point that echoes through generations, shaping the destiny of nations and the very essence of our shared history.